we're live.
Okay, we're back from non-public. While in non-public, no votes were taken. We discussed personnel issue, valuation, and also a legal issue. All right, so next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I think we're going to go right to, we have our
Karen, can you hear us?
consultants here.
Yes.
Perfect. Over here. And do you have video from us or no?
Say that again?
Sorry, can you see us or no?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool, I did pretty well then.
You did great.
Rob hooked me up with the new laptop that I haven't done a meet on, so it was a little.
Perfect.
All righty, so we're going right to our, our presentation. We're going to skip right to that, and we have one of our consultants, Erin. Can you hear me? Hi, Erin. Erin, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So for those of you I haven't had the chance to meet, my name is Erin Moore, and I am one of the consultants working in Strafford, and I have the pleasure of doing kind of an umbrella task of thinking about climate and culture throughout the school and thinking about how can we, on a small scale, looking at groups of students and looking at focused groups of teachers and staff members, and then looking whole school, how can we build up a positive community, help kids to be in the best space they can be to learn, and help teachers and staff members to really build on and elevate their teaching practices so that they're doing the best they can with their learners. That's kind of the essence of what I'm doing. I taught in the Concord School District for 21 years. I have been working as a consultant for the Center for Responsive Schools and Responsive Classroom for about 16 years. And the past couple of years, I branched out on my own and left the classroom fully. I was kind of juggling the two for a long time, and it just was too much. So I'm really excited to be fully transitioned to consulting mode, and we're working with lots of different school districts on how to implement best practices and how to really elevate students' learning with what we have. So it's been a real pleasure to work in Strafford so far. I feel like in the short time that we've been in school, we've made lots of really great gains. And because this is different than looking at your traditional content model or looking at a new curriculum or program like math or ELA, I wanted to make sure that everybody had a clear understanding of kind of the work that we're doing in this area, because it is kind of unique.
So Erin, you are basically our behavior consultant, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and the way that I like to frame that as we are looking at behavior and we're doing it in a proactive way. So I'll break down in a minute what are some of the steps that we want to take proactively to ensure that kids are set up for success. How can we scaffold concepts for them and routines for them so that they are in a position to be ready to learn, and we can see a decrease in those behaviors that take away from learning, essentially. There's a little bit of feedback. There's a lag on my end, so I apologize if it looks like I'm just sitting here staring at you. I'm not. I'm waiting to hear. So can everyone see, Danny, would you be able to make sure, just because I can't see that component, see that first slide, topics and skills?
So you're not sharing. Did you want me to pull it up, or were you going to share screen?
I thought it was being shared. Let me see if it will pull up for me.
Erin, could you just hold on 1 second while you're doing that? We skipped over public comments, which I normally would have done at 7, but if you'd like, if you're in a rush and you want to wait until after.
Danny, would you be able to pull it up? It's saying I can't share my screen.
If you
Not
want to
sure
wait
why.
until after the
Sure
consultant presentation, we can.
Okay,
I'm
yeah.
asking the community members. Do you have a public comment before we proceed? Because I know you came for public comments.
Aaron can continue, and then
You're okay with that?
I do have a comment, but I can.
You want to wait
It's
until
not
after the,
super quick, so
you want to wait till after the presentation?
Sure.
Okay, I just want to make sure I address that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, Erin, I'll be your Vanna. You tell me when. We're on the title slide.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
I appreciate it. I'm not sure why it's not giving me what I want.
Probably on
So,
my end.
Did you say, Danny, are you on the topics and skills, the second slide?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. So I just wanted to speak to this big idea for a minute and make sure we're all on the same page. One of the things that we're all very aware of in the education field is that September is unique to the rest of the school year because we're spending so much time building routines, building expectations, developing classroom rules, taking a look in the fall at school-wide rules and expectations, and giving kids and educators lots of time and practice to get really good at those. And the research behind that, why that's so effective, is when we build kids up in that way so that they have a really strong foundation of what's expected, and they're comfortable in routines, learning routines, and looking at behavior expectations, then ideally the rest of the school year is going pretty smoothly. And we're not having to stop and start and put out those fires in the way that we might have to if we're not clear with our expectations up front. So that's the idea behind this. So some of the things that we focused on during that PD day in August before students arrived was looking at some big ideas around building effective learning communities. And what does that mean? That means how do kids feel seen and heard within the classroom space so they can advocate for their learning and so that the teacher has a good understanding of that child's needs so they can be responsive to them. We went over some steps and strategies on how to build a positive, cohesive school-wide approach to rules. What we know is that when kids are involved in the rules creation process, when they have a say in what's going to help us learn, what's going to help us to be successful in this space, they're more naturally invested in those rules, they're more likely to follow them, and they're more likely to share them with others. So there's a success rate there that we want to really support. When we think about engagement and autonomy, we're helping kids take charge of their learning. So instead of being passive receivers of education and learning, we want kids to see themselves in an active role. So we talked a lot about building engagement. We also talked about teacher language. Feels like a really obvious one, a simple one, but when we use effective language strategies, we're really helping kids to be more independent. We're finding that there are less small problems that we need to address or behavior issues, and we're able to get to the instruction in a more effective way. And then we want to be thinking about intrinsically, how do we build motivation? So not only are students compliant to learning, we want to elevate that and move from that. And we want to get to that model where kids are truly motivated to learn because they're curious, or they're passionate, or they feel competent, or they want to take that next natural step. So that's a shift that we were working on this summer. Danny, if you can go to the next slide, Vanna.
Got it.
Thank you. Is it the 3 images?
It is.
Perfect. So I just wanted to highlight just a couple things that were happening so far. So 2 of these images, the first 2, are really looking at specific strategies that we were focusing on. In the top left photo, that was a recent professional development time, the 8 to 8:30 block, where staff members came in and we had a really focused conversation with some sample videos on how do we effectively get kids started in the morning so that they're ready to learn and they're building that learning community. So things like advisory, things like morning meetings were analyzed and discussed so that teachers can really get kids ready to learn. And then in that last, those other 2 images, I should say, that was from our summer work where we were collaborating and we were looking vertically. So we weren't just collaborating at grade level, but we were really looking across the building at ways to elevate our teaching. So some really good conversation and work coming out of that. All right, next slide.
On it.
Thank you. This is so lovely. When we think about key skills, what are we looking for when I'm going in and consulting with teachers, when we're coaching and meeting with people and having conversations? Initially, we want to make sure that not only do I, as the coach, build a sense of trust, a real rapport with these educators so they feel like I'm their ally and I'm there to support them, but we want to transfer that to students. So when we think about student learners, we want to help them build the skills around effectively communicating their needs and their wants, being able to articulate their thoughts, the answers they get, responses, being able to communicate effectively. We want to work on consistency within the classroom space. So that means if we have a set of rules or expectations, educators feel confident and competent in sharing those expectations and following through when a student is not following an expectation. And what does that look like? Building routines and structures, as I said, so that kids understand what's expected and they can access different learning opportunities pretty quickly and easily. For example, if I have a group of 6th graders who need to know how to effectively use lab equipment to do an experiment and work on a lab report with a partner, there are foundational skills that need to be set up for them to be successful so that it is not a disaster when they go to get the materials. They need to go through what are the expectations for how you handle the materials. This is the process. These are the expectations around the learning. This is what it is to be able to chat and problem solve with a partner. And we break this down to the simplest steps that sometimes adults take for granted. What is active listening? What is eye contact? How do you ask thoughtful questions of your partner? How do you engage with one another in a polite and respectful way? How do you take a response that's fairly short and sweet and expand it and grow it so that you're providing more thoughtful responses to the work and the learning that you're doing? So those kinds of things. Student ownership, as I said, and another big one here that I have in quotes is teaching to the edges. This is all about differentiation, and this is understanding that what we know about best practice is that educators need to find real ways to help all kids access learning. So those kids who are struggling, who might be below grade level or have a learning difference, need to be able to access the content in some way. Just as the kids who are moving really quickly through a grade level, who have a really strong understanding of a skill, who are ready for another challenge, we want to be able to find ways to challenge and grow all of our learners, not just those middle kind of at grade level learners. So that's an area that we're going to be working on. Lots of opportunities for kids to collaborate and talk about their thinking and learning. We know that that builds and supports their writing skills, their communication skills, their problem solving skills. And being able to scaffold and think about how consequences, whether it's around behavior, are really connected so that there's an A to B correlation for kids. What we know about consequences, and we think about discipline broadly, is that when we have a consequence that's directly connected to the action, there's learning that happens there. And that ends up influencing decisions down the road. So if I say, for example, Susie, you were running up the slide at recess, therefore you don't have recess the rest of the week, there's no learning there. When we say something like, Susie, you were running up the slide and the rule is that you go down the slide is closed for you today, you need to go choose something else for today. And so the learning embedded in that, even for our youngest learners, is when I do A, B happens. And it starts to help them self-direct and think through for the next time. So that's the thinking behind that. All right. Danny, next slide, please.
What this looks like.
So here are just some examples, and I don't want to belabor this. I know that you can read these, but I just wanted to highlight some of the most important skills and how those look and sound on a day-to-day, minute-to-minute basis when we're walking through the school setting. So some of the things we're really targeting are how do we help kids make choices that move their learning along. This can be a student saying, you know what, I really prefer doing my write-up on the computer, or I really prefer handwriting it. This can be, I do better solving these math equations when I collaborate with someone else first, or I actually do better working alone. This is, I do better in more of a creative capacity, or I do better in this way. So self-differentiating helps kids identify what are the things that are strengths for them and what are the things that help them to learn most effectively. Problem-solving conferences, reflections, being able to work with kids around what was challenging about that or what didn't go well and what might we do next time so they have some voice and ownership over that process. And thinking really broadly about being able to reflect with students so that they have a broader understanding of all the components that go into a day of learning. So when we think about learning on its surface, a typical school day, there are so many hidden skills embedded in that, even for our youngest learners. And then they just evolve and grow for our older kids. So how do you share How do you take turns? How do you problem solve? When you have a peer who's being noisy or disruptive, what's the appropriate way to assert yourself and tell them to work more quietly? When you need to do a group project, what roles do students have? Is one person sitting back and not doing anything? Is one person naturally taking the reins and doing all the things? I know that was the model when I was in high school and it wasn't effective. So how do we help kids really take charge of owning all those processes of learning and being able to identify what works for them and what's challenging for them, and helping them to get really good at those interpersonal skills? And then if you go to the next slide, Danny,
On it.
I just want to highlight the research behind discipline and what we're looking at. So something that's really helpful for parents and community members to understand is when we're thinking about consequences, it's really through the lens of learning opportunities. How do we have firm, real consequences so that kids understand what's okay and what's not okay, but how do we do it in a way so that there is learning, as I mentioned before? What we know about traditional punishment models is that they're not effective. They're just not. And there's so much data behind that, years and years of data. So when we make that slight shift that feels really small to be able to identify that there's an educational intent there, that's when we see movement. That's when we see fewer removals from the classroom. That's when we see kids being able to participate more fully in what's going on. So I wanted to just highlight that because it is an important shift for some people, and it really is all based on lots and lots of data around what's going to stick for these kids, what's really going to help them move in a positive direction.
Scope and sequence?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yep.
So just briefly, this is where we're headed. The first 6 weeks of school is a lot of building routines, expectations, foundational ideas. It's the beginnings of all the things. And that's true for a coaching model as well. I've spent a lot of time going in and visiting with educators so they can get to know me. I can get to know them. I've done a lot of observations. So I can get a feel for the climate and culture of the building, but also room to room what's going on. And then we can identify areas of strength that are going, and we can also hone in on things that are feeling challenging or ineffective. So I've already started to have some nice conversations with educators about what's an area that feels like a struggle or feels like a win, and how can we take that and move it for you. And in the next week or so, when I go back into the school, we'll be starting a traditional coaching cycle where a cohort of teachers will sign up for this first cycle. It's about 6 weeks long, where we have real focus on what do you want to be working on and targeting. And then we go through the process of coaching, and it will be giving feedback. I'll do observations, might be a demonstration lesson. The teacher goes in and tries the thing. We pull back, we reflect on it. How did it go? And we keep taking those steps forward. So these are kind of some of the things that will naturally start happening now that we're past the first 6 weeks of school. And just quickly, a couple exciting things that are coming up or have already started are thinking about all school meetings or assemblies. And I had a really nice conversation with the school counselors and admin about how we can take that and just move it forward a bit and make it more inclusive and make it more positive to build the enthusiasm, the school culture up. We have our first family night next week, October 18th. Lots of exciting things planned for families. I'm hoping people come. We're addressing school-wide rules and expectations so that we would have representatives from each classroom come together, almost like a constitutional convention, and be able to put those ideas together and come up with our Strafford school expectations and have them posted around the building so that there's consistency from hallway to hallway, room to room, that these are the key things that we hold as our expectations. And then we also have done quite a bit of work around the Student Success Center and helping to streamline those things so that teachers understand the role of the Student Success Center. Students are starting to understand what it's for and what it's not for. And we've been kind of streamlining the communication between teachers and the people who are taking care of that space so that we're all on the same page. And that's been looking really great the past week or so. So those are just kind of the key things that I wanted to make sure people were aware of. And then as we move into this coaching model, we'll be able to have some focused data around movement that teachers are making as they go. And I wanted to be able to do this because it is a bit different than looking at, say, the math model or looking at ELA. So I didn't know if anyone had any clarifying questions, and I just wanted to be able to put all this good stuff out there for people.
Erin, I have a couple. How many teachers will be in your first 6-week cycle?
I suddenly don't have any volume.
Debbie asked how many teachers will be in your first 6-week cycle.
We're looking at 6 to 8 teachers. That's kind of a typical model. And that's just logistics so that I can get into those classroom spaces. We can do observation demos.
I have one other question. I don't know, can you hear me, Erin?
Now I can, yeah.
Okay. We're having the microphone is coming closer.
Moving it to you.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Could you please just go into detail how you're going to create with the students the school rules? Just a little bit more detail about that process.
Absolutely, and this is, I'm not going to steal ideas. I'm taking this from, I am stealing it, but I'm going to be transparent. This comes from the Center for Responsive Schools, which is embedded in so much research over the years. So it's one that's tried and true and super effective. So it's really mirroring a constitutional convention. So what would happen is we would have ideally 2 representative students from each class bring their classroom rules that they have come up with together and get together in a shared space like a conference room or an empty space. It would be probably 30 minutes to 45 minutes on a school day, 1 day's commitment. They would come together and a couple adults, school counselors, maybe Danny or Lynn, maybe one of the UA teachers would help facilitate a conversation around let's physically bring our class rules to the table and let's look for commonalities. What are the things that we're seeing that are essentially the same from room to room? And then have some chart paper out and start writing down these things that are the same. And then it's really verbiage. Then it's coming to a consensus around. So if we have 8 rooms that all say have safe bodies, and we have 3 rooms that say keep your hands to yourself, and for example, how could we consolidate that into one sentence that we feel good about that encapsulates that idea? The idea behind this is that we come up with just a handful of universal rules. And usually what they end up falling into are 3 main categories. How do you take care of yourself? How do you take care of others around you? And how do you take care of your learning space? All with the idea of you're doing your best learning behind it. So usually it's just a handful of rules. There are 2 reasons for that. One is when we have too many rules, kids can't remember them. It's just a logistical nightmare. 2, when they're generalized or universal umbrella rules, then the educator can apply any scenario or situation to those rules. So when you have a student who's a really great lawyer in training who can say, well, technically there isn't a rule about pinching, technically there isn't a rule about running up the slide, then we can not get into that power struggle and say, well, this rule about, being an active listener or whatever it might be, that applies to this scenario. So it makes it much more doable and realistic. So they would be the representatives for their room. Pare it down so we have 3 to 5 global rules that everyone can be okay with and get behind. That really reflect their classroom's expectations. And then I've seen so many schools do a variety of things with it. For the older kids, you can really tap into academic content where 5th graders, 6th graders, middle schoolers are learning about the process of democracy and constitutional conventions and all of that social studies kind of piece. Teachers can really run with that because this is what we would be experiencing. For the younger kiddos, it can be much more simplified. Here are the things that we're going to follow in this building. We either have adults or we assign or have volunteer students. Sometimes it's nice to buddy up those older kids with the younger kids to actually create posters, really large visuals of these rules. And we do multiple posters and we hang them up throughout the room or the building, excuse me. And then teachers are encouraged to do a walkthrough and notice those rules and have conversations about the consistency. Oh, that sounds just like our rule here. And then the idea is that there's an unveiling. So typically at an all-school meeting, it's here are Strafford's expectations. And it can be very celebratory. There's lots of cute things that we can do around making it fun and interesting. But regardless of all those things, the idea really is that students have an intrinsic sense of ownership, that they helped to have a voice in this, and it matters. And it's less about voting to agree. It's more about, can you accept these rules as the thing that you're going to try really hard consistently to follow? We know that you're human. It's not perfection, but these are the expectations that we're all going to hold. So it really is a powerful activity.
Thank you. Say board, questions? So will you also have, you talked about consistency, and I believe one of the slides, you talked about having a routine in the classrooms, which is important. Will there be consistency and consequences? I know it's age dependent and sometimes it's situation dependent, but if you're having the kids, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So if you're having the kids create the rules, what if they say, okay, Miss Erin, what do we do if we're running in the hallway? What is the consequence?
So that's part of the training that I've been doing with the teachers, and part of the focus training that I'll continue to do with teachers, whether that's in a one-to-one coaching session, or that's in a small group, or it's an opportunity to do a whole staff so we're all on the same page. One of the things that we know, and all of this again is steeped in research, this isn't my opinion, so just to put that out there, because there's a lot out there, it can be confusing. One of the biggest pieces that we need to be mindful of is developmental implications. So as you noted, what it's going to look like for 5-year-olds versus 12-year-olds is going to be somewhat different. That being said, it's more about the language that's different, the way that we deliver it. It's less about the actual consequence. And the idea of a consequence falls under these umbrella ideas. We call them logical consequences because we want there to be learning from them. And it falls under these 3 tiers. And one is a loss of privilege. So this is going to be something that teachers are consistently working on. Loss of privilege would be, you cut bangs on Susie's hair in 1st grade, you've lost the privilege of the scissors. That's pretty cut and dry. It can be something that's relational. So you were teasing your neighbor, or you were completely disregarding the teacher's directions to read quietly and you were having a sidebar. You've lost the privilege of sitting with your peer or your friend. We'll try another day. So that's one area. And we look at lots of things as a privilege. It's a privilege to sit with your friend in the cafeteria and eat. The expectation is you're eating politely. It's a privilege for you to do that project with so-and-so. It's a privilege for you to use these materials. The expectation is you're using them respectfully and putting them away the way you're supposed to. The other one out of these kind of 3 tiers is making reparations. That's kind of the fancy term for you fix it. And so when we think about you break it, you fix it, if a little one knocks over someone else's tower, it would make sense for them to help rebuild it. And there might be an embedded apology in there if it's sincere. It might be a picture, an apology note for the younger ones. Oftentimes when we get into the older kids, it's relational. So then it's someone has hurt someone else's feelings, someone has said something disrespectful to the teacher. So then there needs to be a follow-up conversation or problem-solving conference around how are you going to make amends? How are you going to try to repair this relationship? And sometimes when it's disruptive or it's disrespectful or it's interrupting the teacher to the point where they can't teach and kids can't learn, that's when we're accessing the Student Success Center. When this space is no longer working for you, you need to do your work in another space. And we hope that kids can be in a safe space so that they can do that in a safe way. Unfortunately, once in a while, they need some help. But for the most part, it's, here's the privilege. You get to be doing this thing in this space. And when you're choosing not to do your job, and it's impeding other people's ability to learn, you now need to go finish your learning elsewhere or at another time or whatever it might be. The third one is, does that child just simply need another space? So sometimes a child is completely dysregulated. They're getting really angry, they're getting heated, they're getting destructive. But it's less about choosing to not do the work, and it's more about they need to regulate themselves, they need to calm down, or there's something going on for them. And that's when they might need to go for a walk. They might need to go, in a lot of the younger classrooms, there's a take a break spot. Go have a seat over here, take some deep breaths, think about what your job is, come back and try again. So it's like a reset button. And for lots of younger kids, that's an effective strategy that lots of districts use. And beyond that, it's really those personal plans. It's knowing our students so that if one child, there's consistency, big picture, but if one child benefits from going for a walk and going to the bathroom and getting a quick drink and coming back and being ready to tackle that tough math, if that's what they need, then that's going to be the appropriate thing. If another child is not able to stop and they keep escalating, then that walk and drink is not appropriate. That's a waste of time and it might even escalate the behavior. And so you're going to go to the Student Success Center and you're going to complete task A, B, and C. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. That's good.
So there's universal expectations with the understanding that we really get to know the kids and what's making these kids tick, what's going on for them. I was in a school yesterday where a sixth grader, not yesterday, the end of last week, where a sixth grader was really struggling. And when I came in on the surface, it looked like she was being really disrespectful, muttering things, refusing to open her book. When she had the opportunity to step out in the hallway and talk with one of the teachers who happened to be there, it turned out that she had been absent and she didn't understand what the assignment was. And she was getting really upset and embarrassed because she felt dumb. That's what she said. And she didn't know what to do. So there's two things happening there. Before that ever happens, we want to help teachers teach kids how to handle those big feelings in a respectful, polite way. So we don't get to that point. But sometimes it gets to that point. And when we get to that point, we want to have a quick and safe plan for them to get regulated, get back on task, and get the work done.
Thank you. Do we have questions? Clarifying questions?
Just FYI, I can't hear anybody.
No, I'm going to ask the community members that are here. I'm going to give you the opportunity. Do you have a question?
No, but thank you for what you're doing, Erin.
Okay, good. Okay. All right. I think it sounds great. So Erin, do you think that the 6-week sessions, you'll be able to get through everyone?
Definitely. I've done this model before. For anyone who's really into coaching models, it's the Jim Knight model. He's tried and true. I'm a big fan of his work. And that cycle tends to be really nice because we can turn over pretty quickly. Having the opportunity to be in Strafford regularly allows for me to meet with somebody and then within a few days or a week's time be able to follow up on how the thing worked, tweak, and then keep moving forward or shift our focus just a little bit. And so the nice thing about a 4 to 6 week model is that we can go through it and then I can invite a next kind of cohort of people to do the next step. And then ideally we'll have some time in the spring to circle back and say, so here's the focus we're going to be looking at. Who would like to double dip? Who would like to do it again? But the goal is to get everybody in one of those cycles. And looking at the number of people that I have in this focus, it should be a perfect amount of time.
Thank you. Very good. All right. Thank you so much, Erin. Well,
Absolutely.
okay.
Yes.
We may see you next week at the parent meeting.
Yes, I'm excited.
Thanks, Erin.
Danny, thanks for being my Vanna.
Anytime.
Hey,
That's great. So it's what day is the meeting again?
Next
Wednesday? Okay, so the 18th at what time? 6 o'clock. Meet
And
Erin?
it's a family event.
Okay.
You're gonna get to meet Erin and I'll take care of the kids for a little bit and then the kids are gonna come back and you're gonna get to do activities with them as a family.
Great. All right, now we're gonna go back to our agenda. We're gonna do public comments now. I'm sorry that you had to wait so long.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any comments?
So Katie Pagnata, nice to see all of you. I just wanted to kind of start with some gratitude. So thank you. I know each of you put so much time and energy into serving in these roles. And so I just want to thank you for all of your work in doing that. I know it's many, many hours. Also just wanted to share to the board, I had a chance to meet with administration a couple of times and just wanted to share that they've been very awesome about welcoming feedback and collaborating and hearing, a parent's perspective on how things are going. So I wanted you to hear, their willingness to do that has been really encouraging for me to be able to be a part of that in this role. I know that this is kind of the beginnings of budget season, and so I just wanted to come. I think that you haven't quite started there yet, but I wanted to kind of plant the seed that I want, as a community member, I wanted to advocate for the halftime counselor position to go full-time, so that there would be 2 full-time school counselors here. I wanted to kind of share a little bit of history that some of you have been involved with and others of you have not. I know that you guys had dabbled in talking about this idea last year, so I appreciate that this has been something that's already kind of been discussed and on the table. So I wanted to kind of pick that back up and share from my perspective my thoughts on that. So in terms of history, if you don't know, I was a school counselor here. When I came on board, I was the only school counselor here. And it became very quickly apparent to me that the roles and the tasks required of the position required more than just one person. And I was also hearing that from everybody that I was working with of, yes, we need more. And so I started to do some research in an effort to start to advocate for the halftime counselor position to come alive. And what I realized through that research was that there used to be 1.5 school counselors here at Strafford School, and that halftime position was cut without any documentation for the rationale of why that happened. And so at that point, I then came before the school board with the support of the administration, and collaboratively, we advocated for that halftime position to be reinstituted. At that meeting, it was a well-received presentation. Throughout budget season, it was within the budget. In the February meeting, during the discussion, the public discussion, there was no public opposition to it. Unfortunately, after that, the school board cut the position from the budget. The community became aware of that and got a petition together to put it as a warrant article. And at the public meeting in March, the public voted to have that halftime position become part of the funding. And so I share that just from the perspective of, I respect the fact that as a school board, you are balancing so many things within your roles in terms of being able to support the school and its success while also being fiscally responsible to the community. And so I wanted to share that history of community support for this position, to share that historically the community has supported funding of this role. So now why am I here again saying, hey, we need even more? And this is why. So, did you say something?
No.
No. So when the 1.5 time position was funded, essentially what we were realizing was that one of the main areas of, one of the many, but one of the areas of concern that really needed to be addressed with that halftime position was to make sure that the students who were receiving mandated counseling services through the IEPs were being serviced with fidelity. Because what happens is when there are crises happening and we are playing triage throughout the day, which happens consistently, right? A kid who maybe has a mandated service that isn't in crisis in that moment isn't necessarily going to be serviced ahead of the kid that's in crisis, right? And so what the halftime position did was we were able to shift the responsibilities of the mandated counseling services to the halftime role, which made things feel a lot calmer and feeling like we were fulfilling our legal obligations. It also, we were able to kind of then, with that as the baseline, shift over any other responsibilities to help share the load from the full-time counselor position. What became clear when I was in the full-time position, and then when I was in the halftime position, was that there wasn't much more that halftime position could take on. But not a lot, which left the full-time position with still a lot of responsibilities. So because what I've learned is that when we're not in it, we don't really fully understand what happens. I want to just kind of detail out the individual roles within the school counselor role to kind of help give you a broader sense of what the position does. So that IEP mandated counseling, like I said, is as long as it's still the same, which from my understanding it is for the most part, is serviced by the half-time counselor. The full-time counselor has the responsibility of being the 504 coordinator. It's my understanding that since COVID, our numbers for 504s have increased tremendously. The full-time counselor has social worker duties in terms of we are a school who doesn't have a social worker. We don't have a school psychologist. A lot of other schools have 2 full-time school counselors, a social worker, and a school psychologist who takes counseling duties, and maybe is housed in an area that is more metropolitan that has access to other resources. We don't have those to support us as well, which helps kind of take the load off a little bit as well. So anyway, so the school counselor role is also to address some of those social work needs, to make sure that families are accessing resources when they need them. The school counselor role is the homeless liaison. The school counselor provides guidance lessons, individual counseling and group counseling that are scheduled and structured, responsive services. So like I said, when that triage, right? When kids are in conflict, when kids are experiencing big feelings, when kids have anything that might be going on that's disruptive to their learning, right? The school counselor is there to provide that support to get them back to their learning. And crisis management for mental health concerns, collaborating with teachers, being part of the child study team, right? This one role has so many hats that they do. And so because of human nature and because the halftime position is only here so much, what happens, and I saw this happen in both positions that I was in, is that those responsive services that take up so much time falls largely on the full-time counselor because that person is there consistently, right? And so if I'm a kid and I'm having trouble on a Monday and I go and I see that the door's closed and the light's off and the counselor's not there, I'm going to be less likely to go back to that room because over here, this person's here all the time. Yeah.
Katie, we don't have like a lot of time. If you can sort of, just give us any more key points because we have like this incredibly long agenda.
I guess I'm a little bit I guess I just feel like this is a chance for public comment.
Right.
And so I understand like that there are time limits, but it just feels like I should be able to voice my concern about it, to be able to give a broader perspective.
Would you have, if you could just finish, like not take like too much longer. Trying to keep us on track, that's all.
So with the 2 full-time school counselors, there would be able to be an equal grade level split. So which would allow for that consistency and that trust to develop both between the students and the school counselor and as well as the teachers and the school counselor, which would be a highly effective model to support all of the work that the administration and the teachers are doing with the support of the consultants this year. And the consultants are here to come and create strategies and support to then have the teachers and the administration foster that over time, and having two school counselors will support all of that so that it's embedded within the school community.
Good?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Anything else?
I'm just here to lend my support for the 2 full-time school counselors.
Okay.
I think it's very important as a parent and also as a teacher at a different school. It is, the work they do cannot be, I don't know if I can say how amazing it is and how much it impacts the lives of the students who aren't even necessarily getting the counseling services. But it impacts everyone in the class because that student who is in crisis is getting the help they need, the teacher's getting the support, and then we can actually focus on what we're here to do. And at my school, we do have 2 full-time counselors, and it is amazing, and it is so very helpful, and it's split by grade level. It is very, very important. So I would love to see that at a school where that I love and that my kids love. So here's some of this.
I would just ask if there's things you didn't get to say, if you want to send an email.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Or ask to be put on the agenda sometimes.
Yes, that's what, I didn't realize that you were gonna have like a long presentation. You could always ask to be put on the agenda and we'll actually would schedule you in.
Okay.
You know, and if you wanted to email us like the information you shared, you could do that too, so we can reread it.
Okay, thank you.
We heard you. Yeah. Okay. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and we came in perfectly after this presentation. All right. All right, now we need to go back to agenda review. Is there anything we need to change, eliminate?
There is another on here. We're gonna be making a motion.
Yeah, we have
During
several
other.
things that have to go on other too. Good? As is? All righty, so next, approval of the school board minutes. We have none at this time. District goals update.
So I mean, you heard from Erin for, within her goal, and in my report, you got, the update from Lauren and Ally. So if there's any feedback or questions on their update, I'm happy to take it. Well, I could attempt to answer, but I'm also happy to pass it along to them and get you an answer for the next meeting. So I wasn't sure if you had any questions around their work.
About the other consultants?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Do you want to do that now? Do you want to do that when we are working on?
We can do it within my report.
Because you
It's
have a
just, it's,
consultant update on yours.
yes.
I put it at the front though, because I thought they were gonna be here, so they were gonna be part of the presentation, but you can easily move that back again.
Okay, all right, why don't we, when we get to the consultant update, we can do that? Okay.
So those are, that's the big work with the book right now. Like Erin said, it's been the first 6 weeks. That's always laying the foundation for the school year. So we've gotten a lot started, and now it's making sure that we have that foundation strong enough that we're kicking it off. So we have our letters training going. We have Acadians training going on. We have someone from the state coming in to help us with that coaching tomorrow, actually. So a lot is launching. It's just trying to keep it all up.
The admin team's going through their training as well. Our second session will be this coming Friday. So a lot of good stuff happening there. I think the first meeting went really well. It includes learning walks where we kind of, work together to really realize what we saw in there and see if it makes sense and to align it with the practice that the consultants are doing with the staff as well. So.
All righty, next superintendent's report.
So the first thing on there is the manifest review, which you folks have. Hopefully we'll have time to get through that. Next is the financial report. I included an updated one. Many of the items we saw last time have been rectified. They were in some cases they were assigned the wrong line. Some were supposed to be applied to last year and they've been applied to this year. So a lot of those have been cleaned up. But if there's any more questions there, let me know.
Okay, I just want to ask, did anybody have questions about the manifest, or you're still reviewing?
Look good to me.
Just a
In general, we're still just trying to understand the electrical consumption.
Okay.
So I would just say that's ongoing, and we're trying to kind of get a grip on what we have for mechanical systems in the building and what could have changed. So we've asked some inquiries of Rob and Jim, just to understand what we're seeing starting in the spring, early summer, a jump in our usage. Knowing that we have a fixed rate that we locked in, we're just trying to understand what would have caused that increase so that we're budgeting accordingly.
I saw an email that Eric wrote, and maybe I was copied on that, as far as when it started.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if there were some settings that were, maybe Gary used to, our former facility director, had things set differently on some of the ERBs or
It's possible. I
things
mean,
like that.
we've already provided a response from the facilities director based on your last email. You've already received that response from him about his best effort to answer those questions. I'll wait for the facilities committee to come back with what you want to do next.
I think we might have some follow-up questions just to try to understand. You did a great job answering things, but just, I don't feel like I have the knowledge of what types of systems are where in the building based on the addition and trying to understand, I guess, historically, my understanding of an ERV is that it's more for removing humidity and not for cooling. So just trying to wrap my head around.
It's a
that,
side
of what-
effect of removing the humidity that it cools the air. Yeah.
Exactly, right. But whether or not those were installed and tied into other systems that were here, I just don't know the history now. I've been on
Right,
this long,
yeah,
so we're trying to get a little
If
smarter on that.
because if it's like, if the ERV was added into an existing air handler, and does that mean the air handler is on all the time because the ERV is on all the time now? Like, we just don't,
It's good questions.
Yeah, so we
Okay.
can follow up with some more great questions.
Right,
I'm just trying to unravel that.
And I think because there wasn't really an overlap, to have somebody, go through and say, this is what, I keep it at this setting, I keep it at that setting, or changing the filters makes a difference in the amount of usage.
Well, I think it was a combination of a turnover in staff. The building was occupied more this summer with all the summer programs, and it rained just about every day, so the humidity was a lot more. So just trying to understand if it's a pattern or if it was a blip.
Right, okay.
because,
So that's your big question about the manifest. Anything else?
I didn't have anything else on it.
Good? Okay, good. All right, so now the financial?
can I just start with mine?
Yes.
So on the page 15,
Okay.
that special education bus monitor, the third line from the bottom, is that coming from the right place? Because I thought we had, I guess maybe, was that gonna require somebody to ride the bus every day?
They do. Yeah. It's right now one person.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Come back.
Yes, yes, send us the info.
Katie, come
Just seems
back.
a little,
Come back sometime.
Yes,
What'd you say?
Come back
Come
sometime.
back.
yes, seriously.
yes,
But get on the agenda.
yeah.
I meant that seriously in a good way, not.
Right.
All right, so the salaries.
Yes, it's only having 2% used 6 weeks into the school year. Is that just not being utilized as much, or is that being paid for out of like the Paraline or something like that?
As I say to you every time, I will look into that, because that's an
Okay.
interesting question. I would think that more than 2% has been used. And it's possible maybe the timesheets weren't turned in on, like maybe it's put in a little bit less frequently, I'm not sure, but I'll get an answer for you.
Okay, going on to page 16, again, all the ESY stuff is, Great.
I pulled this before she had a chance. She just came to me today and said that she believes she has it fixed now.
okay,
What happened was, and this is an interesting question that I asked about for this year's budgeting. The teacher and para for the preschool program is separated from the teachers and paras for the regular ESY program. And I wasn't sure why. And what happened was everybody just got dumped into the main line.
okay.
So now they've been able to extract that and put it into the preschool. I asked, I think yesterday, I don't know, maybe it was even today, I remember when I talked to Melissa about this, I said, does it have to be separated like that? She said that was the board's desire historically. If it doesn't need to be, there's no reason to. I mean, ESY is ESY. If you want them separated, by all means, I'm not gonna, argue or anything. It'd be easier on our end of things just to have all ESY going into 2 lines, teacher and para. It'd just be simpler. But once again, if you want them separated, by all means, that's your prerogative. But that'll be a budget conversation that we can have on the 25th.
Okay.
Anything else?
Speech, high school speech therapy.
Paige?
Next page, about halfway down, it's $13,708. 2150, 5321. Is that an unanticipated expense?
I'm sorry, 2120,
2150.
2150, I apologize. Oh, it's a couple pages further. Okay, so 2150,
Page
50.
18.
Yeah, page 18, sorry.
okay,
23 fit line 20.
Yeah.
I'm so, no, I'm not. That's not.
2150.
Line 2150, 5321.
One with the
Got
big
it, speech
negative.
therapy, minus 13,000.
Yeah.
I do not know, do you? Was that an unanticipated?
It's a high school, so I don't know.
You don't know?
Sorry.
We'll get you an answer for that.
Okay.
So, write it down before you go on to the next one.
Can I ask a
funny question. What is, I see on some of the lines, it's like this weird symbol, DIV.
Oh, it's
What does
because
that mean?
percent remaining is a calculation, and if you have 0, you can't have 0 in an equation. So the DIV is just there because it's a calculation.
Okay.
That was all I had.
Well, supplies for OT too, but that's not a lot of money.
Anybody else have anything?
We'll continue to tighten this up. It's getting tighter every time we come. Look how many fewer questions you had this time.
Yes.
Oh, it's good.
All right,
So
next
does the capital improvement,
transfer hasn't been made yet.
it hasn't been made,
No.
okay.
No, it's coming soon to a theater near you.
Alrighty.
All right, next, at a recent youth soccer game, a section of tree came down on the field while this was cleaned up by our facility staff. I asked for a review of the trees along the entire fence line, and we had somebody come in and do that. And you can see a quote for the cleaning up of the trees that are considered to be dead, dangerous, just overhanging the fence line and shouldn't be, things of that nature. So you can see that Arbor Care came in and they estimated that it would be about $84.50 to do everything. If you don't want to, if you want to change that, but I'm just saying we wanted to come back as quickly as we could to address what was a safety hazard.
Yeah, the trees definitely have to be dealt with.
I did send an additional email on this because I've been made aware over the, recently that there's some red pines on the other, like perpendicular to that, kind of near the outdoor basketball court.
Yep.
And they are not included on here, and I think they're in pretty rough shape, and I know there's some question of whether or not they're on our property, but I don't know if you knew the answer to that.
No, I wrote back to you and said, I don't know about that fence line. My understanding is that the outdoor classroom's not on our property, and that's just over that fence. So my concern would be is that I don't know what our property line on that side is. It could be the fence line. So it's an interesting question. I'll see if I can find an answer. We're gonna probably have to do a little bit of research on that, but you just asked about that recently, and I haven't had time to deal with that yet, so.
Okay, 'cause I was just wondering if that would be in the same bid, or that would end up being I guess that would end up having to be a separate bid at this point.
If you want to move quickly, it would have to be a separate bid, but I'm not sure you want to move quickly. I moved quickly so that you would have something for tonight. You can slow this right down if you want to.
So the trees that are near the back field, the back baseball field where the little kids play soccer, that's where it fell. Right over the fence are those trees.
There's some on this side, there's some on that side, and there's even more dead ones further down. So,
Okay.
yep.
Is that our property on the other side of the fence?
To the stone wall is my understanding, is that the stone wall is the delineation. And that makes sense to me, right? And the
Okay.
stone walls
You're
were
right.
built to delineate properties, so I feel comfortable there.
So those,
There isn't one on this, on the
And this
the
is,
right-hand side.
these are just the trees that are dead. There's 12 dead trees, like, 'cause it says leaning over the ball field fence. I guess that's what's confusing to me, because the dead trees aren't leaning over the fence.
well,
So it's going to remove everything that's dead, that's on our property, and it's removing also stuff that's hanging over the fence that can be so in other words, you look and you see like I saw one tree and I asked about it myself. There's this massive branch that sticks 12 feet into our yard. And the problem with that is that it's just an interference, and if it ever with strong wind, even a healthy branch can snap off.
Right, so they
They
would
were
take the
just-
branch, but they're not gonna take like the whole tree.
They might be. I honestly don't have like a detailed report of each of these 12 trees. I just know that they had the 12
I would just
trees
hate for
that
us to
were
show up
leaning.
and like a
Yeah, like a
tree,
gaping hole.
there's no
bunch
trees.
of trees unnecessarily
here.
taken down.
But they're just
Yeah.
taking the dead trees down.
No, it does, well, it says
It's dead trees and also other stuff that's overhanging the fence line, so leaning towards the fence. Now, once again, it's easy enough to, part of the motion would be to say is to have a facilities committee member
I think that
be
would make
present
sense.
Right.
when, and mark the trees, you know.
I think
I
that
think
that would
that's a
make
good
sense.
idea, if the facility members don't mind doing that.
I could come by Friday morning
You
and
know
put
where
an
the
eye on the
trees fell,
trees,
right?
if that's an option.
You know where the big branch fell on the.
I don't.
you
No,
don't?
I
But I
don't.
can easily show you. That's not a concern. My point would simply be, I would want Cole or a representative from Arbor Care to be here so that you're talking about what's being marked and it's not being like, you mark this tree, but you don't realize this one's dangerous too because he's got a more professional eye towards tree health and.
Oh, yeah, no, I
So
don't.
that's why I
don't
would
want
say,
trees,
so I can't say yes to Friday yet, but let me reach out to Cole. I know Fridays are more flexible for you. Let me see if he can get out here either this Friday or next Friday to meet with you. And if that's possible, you guys can have that discussion. I don't know if you want to be part of it as well, so.
I just know Eric has more flexibility on Friday than I do, but I'm happy to support.
So I'll include them in that conversation.
Well, we do know, I'm just thinking that there was only one bid, but I do think because of the timeliness needed, we had, Katrina was here during a soccer game when it fell, and they were still talking about it 2 days later, the kids. They came very close to landing on the bench where the little children play soccer. It's like the way back baseball field where they put the soccer benches right against that back fence. And you could see that they're right there. There's like maybe 6 dead trees.
Yeah, there's a few there, and then there's a few more to like the left.
Yeah, I mean, so those definitely have to be removed. So I'm just talking about not going out to bid, that this is really
Right.
important,
No,
that we should get these trees removed before somebody gets hurt. However, the apple, I can't even find the bid
Well,
now.
no, it's page 28, and I think I know what you're gonna say. I would be under the opinion of maybe hold back on pruning those crabapple trees,
Yeah.
because this is kind of an unanticipated expense, and since there might be some more trees that need to come down, maybe we should prioritize the trees that need to go.
Yes.
Well, it does put an asterisk, though, price is good if both are completed. And I've had some work done in my yard, and I know that if I didn't do one thing, it'd be more expensive to do the other. So I know if we have to see if the price, if we didn't prune the crabapple trees, we'd have to see if the price would increase because.
Where are the crabapple trees?
Right in the front.
Right in the front?
Right.
Okay.
They do
And
need,
on the side.
they really do need to be pruned.
Right.
I don't wanna spend $850 on that when we've got other trees that need to come down. That's,
Okay, well,
I'm only one of 5.
I'm just
didn't know
saying
if
that
you could
price-
prune
I
that price.
understand
Is
that.
that something like that our own people could do with pruning? Like, I
You
don't
need
really
to
know
you
how
need to
large
be
they
a-
are.
you need to know what you're doing when you're pruning.
I can prune them. I've got a chainsaw.
But that's,
Trim them off.
do you
and
know
chip
what
'em
you're
up.
doing though?
No, that's what I'm saying.
I
I'll
was
just-
just saying that.
I mean, I have a very good friend who's a tree expert. I didn't know that he would be mortified knowing that you're gonna go out there with a chainsaw.
So
Eric,
what
did
do
you
we,
have something you wanted to bring up in non-public that we didn't?
I did.
It's more of a reminder. I'm not trying
Yeah,
to put you on the
maybe,
spot, but it ties to this discussion. I don't know.
so do we have other trees? You were talking about the red pine.
yes.
Are they, will they come back to remove other trees and then we would have the apple trees pruned?
Well, no, I'm just saying, if we're spending $8,400 that we know of already on tree removal that was
Right.
not budgeted.
Right.
And we're gonna have to spend potentially thousands more to get some red pines removed.
Okay.
I consider crabapple trees at this point to be a luxury. You know,
I hear you. Yeah.
that's all I'm saying. But if you guys are good with it, that's
Well,
fine.
I'm just saying that price will probably increase.
But if they come back, if we do get somebody, I'm not gonna say who at this point, because we don't know yet, but the red pines, if we have to have more trees removed, then they would be here again, right? If they're on our property.
Yeah.
Right, that's one thing
So
I can
do
check
we
on.
need
My
to
guess
get
would
them
be, and potentially not, you could ask Cole, but my guess would be that the price for the crabapple trees is because, okay, all his guys are gonna be on site anyway, so they're gonna come over and prune the trees. So if they had to come back separately,
That one would go up.
then that one would go up, would be my guess.
But if you
So-
meet with them on a Friday, you could discuss maybe the red pines instead of the crab apple. Maybe we could do it that way.
Once again, I don't know if the red pines are ours, and I don't know
Yeah.
how
Oh,
quickly
that's
it's gonna be
true.
able
I'm
to find
sorry.
that answer. I will do what I can.
No, that was my mistake, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we need to approve at least to get those 12 trees removed, because that needs to be done soon, although, and then with the understanding that you're gonna go mark them out.
Or go have the
I
discussion.
just wanted to know where they are based on what everyone's saying. I don't want to be the one physically.
Well, we don't want to have trees removed where they're not a problem.
Yes.
And we come back, I
Okay.
think what you were talking
Yeah,
about,
it's
is
just
like
good for
all of a
us.
sudden all of our
Yeah.
trees are gone. Okay, that happened once before. Do you remember that? The baseball field was so
Yeah.
sunny. Anyway,
So if you
but I don't know about the apple, I don't know.
make the motion that you want, and I will be sure to align that for you.
Okay, so I move that we accept the bid for $7,600 from ArborCare for the dead tree removal, subject to a board member looking at them and not wishing to bring it back to the full board for further discussion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion. So we're gonna wait, if we do have to get the red pines removed, then we would have people come back again, and then we can revisit the apples.
Or we could just budget the apple trees into,
Okay.
that next time.
I'm sure we'll have other trees that need to go down.
So yeah, so I guess like the reason for having a representative like Eric go view what's being taken down.
Yeah.
It's just mainly we want the dead trees to come down and let them to trim anything that may be overhanging,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. All right, Katrina,
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Jess?
Yeah.
Liz?
Yes.
Debbie, yes. Okay. All right, you got facility use?
So the facility use, I have a facility use form for the SEA and one for Zumba.
All right. Would someone like to make a motion? No, SEA, we don't charge. Zumba, is that the same person that's been Zumba? Didn't we already come with an agreement with what we were having her pay?
Yeah, you gave her a slightly discounted rate.
Yeah.
Which I would have to go back and look and see.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was like half price or something?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
Please
And
note
she
that
put
has
it
a
in for
note.
the whole
Oh, she
year.
has a note there?
Please note she has a note in the upper right-hand corner.
This is for the whole
I
year?
would like to ask permission to teach the class for the whole school year in 6-week sessions or 6-week intervals. I think as opposed to coming back and needing to put this in over and over and over again, because last year I remember this coming back multiple times. So I think she's
Okay.
basically saying, can we just set this up for the whole year?
Okay, so the SEA, we don't charge. They've already had the meeting. Anyway, for the Zumba, the only reason we were charging something was because she did charge people who went to her class. But we felt that since it was benefiting the staff, that we gave her a discounted rate, which we need to go back and check. I think it was half price, but I'm not
I
positive.
think it was.
All right, so would anyone like to make a motion? And then the Zumba the Zumba teacher would like to do this for the entire year. It looks like it's on Thursdays, 4 to 5, and that's not going to have any issues with classroom use? Correct. Okay,
Did last year.
okay. All right, does anyone want to make a motion?
So I move we accept these facilities use requests as presented for the SEA meeting to waive all fees, and for Zumba class to be offered all year at the rate we will be charging the rental rate as we have previously accepted.
Do you have a second?
No second?
Okay, discussion. So the Zumba will be held, it looks like, on Thursdays for the entire school year, when teachers or school is in session. And we're gonna have the administration check minutes to figure out what we charged, what we approved in the past. Alrighty, so Katrina,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Jess.
Yeah.
Liz.
Yes.
And Debbie, yes. Okay. All right.
I have 3 letters of retirement, one from E.B. Divins, one from Linda Plaza, and one from Susan Williams to retire, effective at the end of the 24-25 school year, in other words, June 30th of 2025. 2 of them qualify for all the associated buyouts. E.B.'s has not been here for the required 7 years, so therefore, we don't really need a letter of retirement. So I just, accept it, don't accept it. I just wanted to let you know that I received it and that she's going to be completing her time with us in June of 25.
Okay. So let's, since we really have to accept that date, that, what was it, October 1st date that we gave everyone to have the letters in,
Yep.
really applies to people who are going to be receiving the benefits according to the CBA. That would be Linda and Susan Williams. So could we just accept the retirement requests for Linda?
Yep.
Plaza and Susan Williams?
Okay. Okay, so I move that we accept the retirements of both Linda Plaza and Susan Williams with thanks from the district for their lengthy service at the end of the 24-25 school year.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will second.
Okay, discussion. We thank them both so much. Well, we still have another year with them, so that is very good. Another 2 years, right?
The rest of
Finish
this
this
one.
year and then next year. But we so much appreciate both of them. It'll be hard shoes to fill. Alrighty. Eric,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Jess,
Yes.
Liz, and
Yes.
Debbie, yes. Okay.
So the DOE 25 and MS 25, I know they came to you tonight.
So,
But really, we're at the point where it's been accepted, they've been approved by the state, both Department of Education and the DRA. All we have left is, part of the process is the signature pages. I don't believe they hold up the work that the DRA has to do as tax rates and all that, but I'm just letting you know that I have the signature pages, should you want to approve them.
all right, so we do need to approve this. I think just for this, going forward, what we would do is get these in our packets and then, or maybe coming to the SAU, read them before we sign them. But
I think you could wait till October 25th if you would like time
Well,
to spend with them.
I do not feel comfortable putting this off. We do not want to put this off another day. Even though this isn't gonna hold it up, I would hate to think that it would. So just, it's good for everyone to see this anyway. This is based on last year.
So just so you understand the process, Greg Colby, our CPA, this is one of the primary things that he's hired for. He comes in, you can see this is quite cumbersome. What he does is he requests of a variety of people information. We go and run reports, we pull information for him, we feed it to him, and then he becomes the person that assembles all that information into the MS and DOE 25s. And he also does all the back and forth conversation with the DOE and the DRA to get them satisfied and happy with what they have in front of them. So while many of these numbers were probably gathered by Veronica, Elizabeth, myself, as well as other outside resources, it's Greg that is the key that brings it all together and makes it happen. And he put in an exuberant number of hours making this thing come together.
So you can see, as you look through it, it helps you to understand the process. Like if you look on that second page, this is just a teaching, this is just for your future. to
She's looking at the
understand
MS
this.
25 document.
Okay, so if you look on the third page, those numbers should be familiar to you. Look at interfund transfers, transfer from general fund. What do you think that $50,000, where do you think that was? Where did we transfer money from? $50,000. Those are the 2 warrant articles.
Yep.
Right.
Okay? So, and then transfer from capital reserve, we must have taken out $26,000 to use to pay, what did we do last year?
I think that was
We took out $26,000. That was for the roof, okay? So this is, I just want you to to understand what you're looking at, so that in the future you'll have a better idea. Alright, let's look at some more. Alright,
On that same page, you see the grant number of $353,000. That's important because if we don't go over $700,000,
we don't,
it really reduces a lot of the paperwork we have to do. So
that's
we
a
actually-
special audit we'd have to do. If you go over $750,000, you have to pay for a special audit. And we know
For
we have
grant money?
yeah,
Yes, it's just, it costs us more and it's more work for the auditors. But since it's under that threshold, we just have a regular audit, not the special grant audit.
even
that's-
with the almost 300,000 in ESSER this year that we'll probably expend, we still should be far from the 750, so we should still be okay.
So if we look at that, so if we're looking at the restricted grant and aid from federal government through the state, the 343, we can look at the breakdown. One of those must be IDA, right?
It would be, yes, that's one of the federal
Okay,
government.
so that
Through the
must be,
state.
that must be the 90. That must be the 90. So then the 217, was that ESSER funds? Was that ESSER?
I can't tell you right now,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Debbie.
Okay.
As I said, we provide Greg the information and he assembles it to the appropriate column.
Well,
We would know from those,
as
we would know
people-
from the lines, but those I
This
think are
is,
great.
this helps you to just, in the future, take this
Right.
home and look at it and see if you can match up what you know, what we spent last year, what money we got. Because, you will end up being able to figure it out if it lines up.
I guess that'll lead to a broader question. Does, our grants do not show up in our financial report, do they? Because like if these are,
No, I don't put the 1,700 lines or the 17 lines.
So instead of having a $12 million budget, really, it's what, $600,000 more than that.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking, big picture, it might be good at some point so we could see those expenses to know how they're being spent, where they're being spent. Just we have it in front of us.
Instructional programs. Instructional staff. So transfer to, what's that? Transfer to food services, no, that's not, it's transfer to general fund. It's $26,000. Oh, that was from, that transfer lines up with what we took out of the capital reserve. Okay. Wow. So we still owe on our building project $2,680,000. Well, actually, plus the interest, so it's $3,290,000. All right, I think it looks good. So I'd like, unless anybody else has questions, I'd like a motion to authorize me to sign this under penalty of perjury. Would someone like to make a motion?
Yes, so that's the MS 25.
And the DOE
And the DOE 25, okay, so I move, we authorize the board chair to sign
all people have to say.
on behalf of the school board,
Okay, everybody's gonna
everybody.
say-
Everybody.
I still want an authorization.
Yep,
because mine
so-
was in the box of perjury.
Okay,
We'll visit you
so I
later.
move to, I'm gonna start that motion over. All right, I move, we authorize the school board chair to sign under school board chairperson and the rest of the school board to sign for the DOE 25 and the MS 25 for the year ending June 30th, 2023.
Okay, we have a second. Okay, discussion. Okay, Eric,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Katrina, Jess, and Debbie. Okay, so I'm signing and I'm gonna send it around. Noting that this was already submitted and accepted, but they have to have this. All right. I have to sign
There's a
this.
second page. Yeah.
Yeah, this will be, as I just mistaken this is gonna be, this will be scanned and put in the town book. The town meeting. And they'll be happy, at least it's before December this year. There you go. Okay. All right.
All right, ongoing task list.
I'm just saying, I can't believe that was such a big deal.
Any questions? Obviously, I keep updating. You can see a lot of stuff got checked off this month. If you recall, you had asked me to hold off on the RFP for the windows, so just let me know when you finally are ready for us to do that.
We held off because people felt that it was going to be a warrant article, prices could change, right?
Yeah, I'm wondering how does that happen when in a municipal capacity, you have to have a bid way ahead of time? You know what I'm saying? Like, do
Well, you
they
don't know
only
if-
ever,
I don't know if it'll be necessarily way ahead of time. You just have to let them know the timeline. Because
Right.
it's a warrant article. It's just you have to be able to know the number to put for the warrant article. It doesn't have to, it's separate from the budget, right?
yes, I understand that, but before we come up with this, do we want to know whether we're chasing $150,000 or $300,000? You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have any gauge at this point to know what the cost is. I don't know how we handle that.
I do know that when we put the RFP out for the bid, even, I don't think anybody will give us a bid that's good for more than 90 days. So that we'd have to decide if we were going to, add 10% or something like that to the warrant article, just in case it went up higher.
All right.
You could make that part of the RFP.
Yeah,
Say the RFP, we're gonna do a summer install. We need you to anticipate
Okay,
Right.
what you believe the cost will be.
okay,
You would, yeah,
all right.
I would think
Build a
companies
contingency
do
in.
that
I know,
all the
it's always,
time.
yeah, it's always like super tough because if you're holding if you're asking for a quote in, say, February, and you're saying, I want this to still be good through August, they don't know what's gonna happen with material prices, so they have to make sure they cover themselves, so you end up paying more.
Right.
So but I don't know if there's a way to avoid that either.
Yeah.
But it's just, when you ask them to hold pricing for, more than 60 or 90 days, it's like really hard for them to.
Yeah. Some people just put on the bottom of the contract with the bid that, subject to price increase in materials.
And this is happening all the time. I mean,
Right.
almost every district out there at some point in time over a 10, 15-year period is gonna put a warrant article out for items that they have to bid out and have to wait months, maybe even a couple of years to get done. I think these people are used to doing it, so I think we could go out and try and see what we get back. Look, there's only,
So when do you think, I mean, it is a good question because January's gonna sneak up on us very quickly.
Right.
If we put, and the RFPs take a long time because this is gonna be a very detailed RFP because of the types of windows and sizes and everything. Should we get it out by like November 1st? Or is that too soon? Or November 15th? So you give, because you need to keep the bid open for, 30 days maybe or something like that. And then
Are you thinking that we'll review it in December? When would we want to see, because we don't always have a second meeting in December either. So
We usually do our budget hearing at the end of January, right?
I think we should have it at the beginning of January so we know what we're doing. And then just, like Rob said, put that it would be a bid for summer installation. So it doesn't matter if we ask them for the bid in October or November, we're saying summer. So I think before we
Okay,
were worried about it expiring. How long will it take you to work in the RFP?
If you, once you tell me to do it, I'll get started on it, I don't know, a couple of days, maybe at the most, because I want to look up the sample language. And,
Right.
do you want the one we issued before, just as a reference?
oh, absolutely, that'd be
That was an
lovely,
email.
because you probably already did a lot of the research, that will speed up the process dramatically.
Good. So do you want to just get the RFP going and just
I
say for
think-
summer
I think
installation?
so, yeah.
I
Okay,
Yeah,
Do you
Yeah.
want that to be a vote or not?
to get this,
Do
the RFP.
do I need to have a vote to?
Let's just do a motion.
okay, so I move we authorize Rob to start pursuing the RFP for the windows that we anticipate to be a warrant article for our annual meeting in March.
Okay, do we have a second?
That was second.
All right, how many windows was it? 13 windows? We say 13?
I believe it's 13.
Are we still considering the ones that go the whole length of that side of the building though, or are we doing those at a later date? Didn't we say if it was a warrant article, we might do that whole side and down the back?
Yes,
In other words, starting at,
Down by the garage.
Yeah, we might as well.
oh,
enjoy
oh,
it.
yes, the more,
So what does that
the
mean?
older windows.
So that's gonna be,
The one that he
you're
anticipates.
gonna
as
be like
his
Yeah,
20
yes.
windows? Is it gonna be like 20 windows? Or at least? Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, and, so that'd be the whole length of, that runs parallel to the annex, the whole length of that wall. And then the matching windows around the backside near the peach
Is that
trees,
two
the fruit
classrooms?
trees.
2 classrooms? Or 3? 2 classrooms? Yes. All right.
Yep.
Okay, so I just wanted to be clear, because Rob puts the effort into the, creating the RFP, we want to make sure it's for the windows that we're talking about.
There's no windows on the front of the building, correct? It's
Well,
it's
we
on
did
the
all
No,
garage
those
side.
those are all
Very
new.
new.
Those are new, so it's the
Yep.
garage side and then a couple of windows on the back.
So
Yeah.
now with the possible, with the asbestos, that's got to be noted, that they're gonna have to come and look out and test. And
And these also won't be matching windows because they're two different decades that that those sections of buildings were
Okay,
built.
I think it's a good idea to get this done, okay. But you don't have to rush. Just take your time. It could be done like for November 1st, or for our November meeting.
sometime.
Yeah.
I have to bring the RFP back to you for
Okay,
approval anyway.
alright.
So you're telling me to do it, I'm
Right.
gonna then bring it back,
Okay.
and then you'll say, yes, this is what we were
Okay.
looking for.
You're gonna
et cetera.
send all the details, right? Okay. All right. All right, I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, that's the one that I've been worried about, because it's a big one, so. Anything else on the ongoing task list?
I do have a question. I sent the email to you about this, Rob. Do we have a contract for this winter snow removal already signed?
So I have a contract. It wasn't ready for the board packet, so I think I put it into the next one. But we budgeted sort of based upon what we got. The prices have gone up. I mean, it's definitely has gone up. But anyway, so the answer to your question specifically is, I was never asked about the RFP. I went back and looked, and in April, you guys asked for a breakdown. In May, I brought you the breakdown, but there's no evidence that at any point in time do we say, hey, let's go find potentially a different, or just have people put in bids. So that didn't happen as best of my knowledge. It might have happened before May. But the prices have, according to the current contractor that we had last winter that's put in their quote, or not quote, but their contract for this year, it's gone up. So,
We had a discussion about the folks that had previously done it. Do you remember that? Possibly inquiring.
Mullins, right?
Messenger.
By the messenger message.
I would, if possible, I know it's late, but I know people are still doing bids on this sort
I just
of
think with
stuff.
such a large, it's a large amount of money that it would be our due diligence to.
Put it out to bid.
I think it was this time of year last year, it was right before you started, we had sent out an RFP with the previous superintendent. We only got one bid.
Right.
Yes.
But I think some didn't make it to people and got returned in the mail and stuff, so I think.
Do you have that RFP as well?
I do.
You're seriously making my life
And
a lot easier, so.
I had-
And is that to bring back to the next meeting if I can, so we can get that going?
Yes, I think so. I mean, because we last season, we went over our,
Well, the budgeted amount is 12,000, so it's over the 10. So I think
Yeah,
it's a good
but-
idea, like you said.
so
Yeah.
knowing that the budgeted amount is over 10, but if you look at the years previous, it was well below 10. It was like 7.
But I think Rob's email was also highlighting the fact that we didn't have staff here doing
In-house
as
snow
much
removal,
work.
yeah,
Right,
December and
so we
January,
were
no
paying
in-house.
them
Yeah.
to
Oh, that's
do
true.
snow blowing,
They did
shoveling,
everything. They
yeah.
shoveled, they snow blowed, they actually used their equipment to come in and move the big piles.
Right.
Like, they went way above and beyond what we would normally ask them to do because we didn't have any staff.
And there were a lot of times where, so the rates that we had from their proposal were so much for so many inches, so some of the
Yes.
stuff they came back, like, we saw in the manifest 4 times, or
Yeah,
five,
on a
depending on
big
how long of a
snowstorm.
duration it was and how much snow we got.
Maybe we also need to, when we approve the RFP, do invitations, send it
Oh,
to different.
That's how I do RFPs. I will, like, when we do the glass one, I will look for every glass company
Okay.
in our region and actually find like a contact that I can send it to. So I do that, but then I'll also look for ways to publicize it. I'll put it on Facebook and say, anybody out there know any glass people, please share this, you know? So I'll do everything I can to make sure it's really well advertised and get the word out. The same thing with plowing.
Okay, so, yeah, so if we, I'm just thinking about, I'm going back to the windows. If it's approved in March, so our article is approved, then they would have April, May, at least they'd have almost 90 days to order the windows. I'm just thinking about a supply issue with, if some windows take a while to get, so that they can do it in the summer. But hopefully that they would figure that out.
I think we'd be, as soon as you guys choose a company, I think we'd start working right away with them to have a plan in place so that, with the anticipation that the community will approve. I never want to go into a warrant article assuming we're not going to get approved.
Right.
I want to go in thinking, okay, let's assume we're going to get approved. And if we don't pay, then, you know, it's over, but.
Can we do like a cross budget year down payment? Because I mean, if they wanted to order the windows in March and not get a payment till July 1st, because that's when that budget is approved,
I have to talk to Greg.
okay?
Like, there's rules about what you can and can't do.
Right.
We could take money out of the capital reserve.
Right.
Put it back in the capital reserve.
We could make that part of the warrant article.
I
Well,
was
you know,
thinking about
and depending on what the bid is, we could say also that, let's just say it's $300,000 or something like that. Now that we're up to 20 windows with asbestos, that we would take maybe 50,000 out of capital reserve, which could be the startup
Right.
Right.
thing.
I think a lot of these companies, when you're a school district, I think they are pretty confident that once you get approved by that they're gonna get paid. Once the taxpayers say yes to the project, they know the money's coming. So I don't
I
think.
think once we see like what the dollar amount is, then we'll be more apt to have
Okay.
the discussion about where we're getting, I agree, like, where we want to.
Do we have anything to say about, okay, the enrollment report week, looks good. The Co-Brown freshman transition survey. I do have, just put that non-public, but maybe we need another non-public
I
or
think we can go
something.
into
We need
another.
non-public. Okay, we're gonna be here till midnight, okay.
All
right.
I'm not.
No, I know Liz, I know you have to leave. And I didn't mean to be rude during public comments, but it was like,
That's why I told them to come back.
yeah, some boards only give 3 or 5 minutes per person.
Right.
I don't think people
Trying to.
We thank her for
Oh,
her,
yeah,
for
and she's wonderful.
what she's
It
saying.
is very appreciated. Okay.
Thank you.
Facilities update.
So just folks have been asking about different things, so I wanted to make sure you knew the HVAC work in the library is complete. It's on. The new basketball backstops and backboards have been installed. There was a question about using the old backboards, and they don't recommend it. They said they're glass, if outside usage, I should say. Outside usage could result in them shattering, and if they do, they said it'd be very large chunks of glass. It could be very dangerous.
So where are they?
They're still sitting out back.
So should we see if there's a community group or somebody that would want them? We don't want them just sitting there.
No, I agree. We were going to dispose of them, but you folks wanted to kind of cover them and
I
sit
just
on
worry
them, and
about
we are.
liability.
Is there room in the garage? Maybe if the other backboards weren't in there?
The Sugar Shack, yeah.
The- Yes.
But why are we keeping
I was going to say,
stuff?
why keep them?
I mean, that's what
Until
I'm
we-
doing in
until
my
we-
house
Until you
right
find,
now.
until you find a homeowner.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
until they just don't go in the
Well,
dumpster.
I'm sure that there's a way to donate something and we waive liability. I'm sure that there's a form people can sign.
we-
Buyer
If
beware.
they're, I suppose if they're inside.
Yeah,
We get one at the Grange, one at the Waldron store.
So the only question I got answered was, can they be used outside? And the answer was, they don't recommend it. So that's the only answer I saw. I didn't seek a buyer or a donation spot or anything else. I just got you the answer to the question that you asked.
I just think we should donate them to anybody that wants them. But
We just have to get the word out.
Yeah, I think we would just need to get like a sign off. It's just like when you donate anything. You donated food to the food pantry. You know,
Right.
somebody could get sick on it. and,
I have it on
you
my
know,
to-do list.
It's,
We would technically be waiving our capital asset or policy there that says they have to go out offered for sale first. But we can make that motion and all. Yeah, I just want to be consistent with
Right.
what we're doing.
you're right.
So
I think it's just gonna be a very limited group. that-
I agree, but it would be nice to be able to put them to use somewhere if anybody could
If
use
somebody
them.
has a barn,
I can try and sell them for $1.
Put
in
them on
fact,
Facebook
in
Marketplace.
fact, Kelsey's.
Let me give it a try.
barn with
Yeah.
basketball.
I know you're worried about time, so let me just give it a try and I'll get back to you guys, find out what I can. The new locker room doors are installed. The next in-house project is the partial bleacher seat replacement that's already been approved, so.
Just to talk about facilities, one of the things, if everybody was reading the New Hampshire School Board Association, that the email we received about new policies and updates and things, one of them was about a policy that we need to have this long-term capital improvement plan. And I was thinking that policy committee, actually more of the facility committee, would need to come up with, work on that, like a 5-year plan and then a 10-year plan. We're supposed to have that. So it's just something to be thinking about for facilities.
We've been talking about it as we've been working through our charter, trying to establish kind of our goals and what we want to get to. That's our good.
So look at that, look at the school board email and that policy, because it basically tells you what you have to have.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
For the principal's report.
Before we do that, I think we have 2 things to do. One, didn't we have a resignation we had to accept for secretary? Or
I had them all in other. I just had all that stuff
okay.
under other. Because we got them all after the board packet went out. Whenever I get
Okay.
things after board packet that I think are essential, I put them in other.
Okay, let's just accept your resignation, because I don't want to forget it, so that it can be an official.
Hold on.
Unfortunately, Keisha, our school board secretary, is resigning, and she's done such a great job, but she's had a change in her job situation, so she's not gonna be able to do this anymore. We did post it as an anticipated opening, but we can't start really doing anything until we accept the resignation. So would someone like to make a motion to accept resignation of Keisha?
I move we accept the resignation of Keisha Morris as our school board secretary.
Okay, do we have a second?
I have a second.
Discussion?
Is there an effective date or is that immediately? I don't,
She said that she would cover the stuff that she's already been currently due.
Okay,
I'll provide the district with draft and finalized minutes that are currently due from me, as well as return all school district property by the next school board meeting.
I think she's not doing this meeting.
She's not doing this meeting, so.
okay, so
it's-
as discussed in this email,
Okay, we have the second discussion. So we thank Keisha. She's done a great job.
She did a great job.
We miss her as the school board secretary. Your minutes have been very good. And maybe she'll help train our next person. We'll see. All right, so Katrina.
Yes.
Eric.
yes.
Jess.
Yes.
Liz.
Yes.
And Debbie, yes. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure we did that. All right, so now we have principal's report.
So you have the nomination for paraprofessional, Stephen O'Donnell. He is relatively new to the workforce. He tried out the position as a substitute first, and it's been a good fit, so we'd like to nominate him as a full-time paraprofessional.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept that nomination?
Page.
I got it, yep.
Okay.
So I move we accept the nomination of Stephen O'Donnell for paraprofessional at a rate of $15.42 per hour from the 1200 special education line. Benefits per the CBA, and this is a full-time position at 35 hours per week.
All righty, we have a second?
I will say.
Okay, discussion?
He was one of my kindergartners.
Oh, really? Isn't that funny?
And I've kept in touch with his mom. so-
Oh,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
that is so neat. Okay, Katrina?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes.
And Debbie, yes.
Can,
Okay.
can I just ask one question? Are we filled up on para positions yet, or are we still? There's always that perpetual one more. I hope I'm hopeful we can fill those
How many more
positions.
do you think we need?
It's 1 more.
One more? We're
That's
getting
pretty awesome.
closer.
Yeah, closer than since I've been here. This is the
Good.
closest we've
I
been.
like
And
it.
I have someone I'm trying to check references on, I just haven't gotten anyone back yet. So maybe for the next meeting, you'll have the last one.
Alrighty, so we have now for the next nomination.
Sure, so the next nomination is the recess monitor, so we have that line on the, in the budget, lunch recess monitor. Last year, we talked about changing it to be where the need is. So I think I've explained this before, but I'll touch on it again. To make sure that teachers get the half-hour lunch, they take their lunch while the kids are at recess. So that's the time we need the more help because the paras are doing the recess coverage. So Dee has been subbing to see if she liked the position, and she said it's really working for her and her family. So we'd like to make it official and have her be our recess monitor.
Okay, do we have a motion to accept Dee as our recess?
Yep, so I move we accept the nomination of Dee Eldridge as our recess monitor at a rate of $15.42 per hour. This is a part-time position for 15 hours max per week, and this is from the 1100 line, which is budgeted for a recess monitor.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will second.
Any discussion? So if it rains and there's indoor recess, does she go from class to class?
So she'll come in and she takes over one of the classrooms, yeah,
Okay,
for each grade level.
all right. Discussion, everybody's done. Okay, Katrina,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Jess,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
and Debbie, yes. Okay.
And sadly, I do not have a potential case manager to present to you tonight.
We're hopeful.
Still working on it.
You are aware that we don't have that position at all right now, right?
Yes.
That the remote person,
Oh,
we lost the remote person. So we're kind of in a working round the clock trying to fill this position. So I know Danny's hard at work on it. So just hopefully the next meeting will have something for you.
Is that
Hopefully.
all the planning? Is that,
It's actually middle school. Yep, so it's a
The remote person was like through it's like a contracted service type
Yep.
thing?
and that, so it's like a hiring company, a staffing company. So they are still working. They thought they had an applicant for me to meet with today, and that person backed out about an hour before the interview. We had someone else come in and interview, but we're still working through the interview process before we decide to bring them or not to you, so. The headhunting company is still looking. We told them that we would really prefer an in-person support, just because it took so long to get the remote person up and then for them to back out, like, make up time, so they're trying to focus on in-person.
So is everybody like doing double duty right now?
So right now, Marissa and Lynn are kind of the point people for the families, and it's para support, and we're missing their direct services, so we're going to end up to have to make it up. Once we have somebody in place, we're gonna have to do compensatory for direct instruction services.
Okay, alrighty. Alright, so you have a playground update?
Yep, so after this, it's like I put it down and I jinxed myself. So if you've been out back, you noticed the slides were not installed on Monday like they were supposed to be. The rain delayed his last install, so he hopes to come this weekend to install our 3 slides.
And the kids actually knew the date.
So we
Because-
talked about it at the whole
Yes,
morning
because I
meeting.
had somebody saying, oh, the slide's gonna be there today.
Yep, so I waited until the last day, right? Like I waited until Friday to tell them that they were coming on Monday, and Jim texted me on Saturday being like, bad news. I'm like, oh. So we talked about being flexible and practicing our mindset. So hopefully this weekend with the rain, he was just delayed. So his plan is to come and get those 3 slides in this weekend for us. He has the other 2 at his warehouse. And then the PTO equipment, those 2 items are slated for late November, early December install or delivery. I had this wrong. So it's delivery and then install, because one of them will need to get dug into the ground, will have to be in the spring. So the climbing one, we might be able to place and start using sooner, but the other one, because it's a ground dig, he said that'll actually have to be in the spring.
Let's make it one call.
And so I haven't met with him, so I just want to go over the space requirements with him, and then I can put some notes together for the facilities committee on where he recommends those pieces to go. Just wanted to make sure that I was very clear, the outdoor club that we had talked about, the outdoor play club, that's running this spring. They had decided to wait because we want to get a couple donations in place. So they're gonna wait and do it in the spring, because one of the people leading it is also doing Girls on the Run, and we decided that was gonna be too much. So outdoor, you approved it, but it won't be happening until
And
this
we
spring.
didn't approve it, that it was starting now. Did that
We
with the
just
language?
I think we just approved
We
it.
just
Okay.
approved
Yeah.
it.
Alright,
I just wanted to give the update that we decided to wait until the spring, so we won't hear about it till then. I was listening to your last meeting, and Rod let me know you had some questions about visiting for lunch, so I wanted to update those pieces. So yes, we do have people come in and visit for lunch. We just asked for advance notice, so we've had people come in for birthdays, Miss McGrath to start the week, so a lot of times families will come and eat with their kids then, or even just because, a relative may be in town and they want to come and surprise them for lunch, so they come on in. We did do Grandparents' Day. I don't know if you saw or not, but that was last Friday. We made our own because the other one just happens too early in the school year to get invitations out. The teachers are like, they felt bad last year when we did it, that not every grandparent had enough notice. So they wanted to provide more notice. So we did that last Friday. We had an amazing turnout.
A lot of people here. We were here for a facilities meeting and we saw all the.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. They wrapped around the cafeteria. So good problems to have. Nicole and her team did a great job of, taking on all the extra meals for that day, which kind of leads us into the next one. Most people, when they come to visit, pay with cash. We do have the ability to charge it as an open food choice to a student's account, so it doesn't look like their meal, because you wouldn't want that piece that the reimbursement gets messed up then. But they have just like an open food choice that is the price of an adult meal that we could bring in. Most of our visitors on Friday brought cash. Most of the time they bring cash and do a la carte, but we do have that option. Any questions on
Is
visiting
there
for
another,
lunch?
a plan to do another grade for Grandparents' Day or?
So we've only focused on second grade with it. They kind of made it their initiative, and it was really cool that the
Is that
first,
through the second grade?
the second grade
Okay.
team did it.
Okay.
You think maybe sixth graders all would invite their dad? Is
They
that
don't want
pushing it?
to- they wanna sit with you.
Tough sell.
You'll have to all sit in another.
I don't know if that'll work. Yep.
But what was, because first and second have lunch together, so the first graders were like, where are the second graders? And they got to see the second graders with their grandparents, so I think it also made some
It would be nice if
anticipation to keep
we
it
could do
going.
that for a lot of the grades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
It's a great thing, yeah, if other grades want to do it, they can do it, right? It's
Yes,
us.
Okay.
yes.
Very much.
Awesome.
Alrighty, consultant updates.
So you've heard from Erin, so I guess it's just Ally and Lauren. If you guys had any questions on their update that I could try to help with or take notes and get you an answer for next time.
Oh, should go back to that.
Okay. So what I understand is that Rob said Ally is like the big picture. She's doing the big professional development and training, right? Okay. So Lauren is the boots on the ground.
Yeah.
She's in the classrooms
Yes.
working. So
And she coaches the teachers where Ally is coaching the admin team.
how often is Lauren here?
So Lauren's here about 4 times a month. Her and Erin both have about, we tried to split them. So like 1 week Lauren will be here 2 days, then Erin will be here 2 days the following week, and then Lauren will be back. So Lauren was here last week for 2 days. She'll be here next week for 2 days. And it's usually a Tuesday, Thursday for her schedule.
So Lauren, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, I understand, that we're working on teaching strategies,
Mhm.
right? But are we also focusing on modeling teaching activities as far as explaining skills that need to be taught in math?
So she has not done any model lessons yet. She has brought in activities for teachers to, and planned with them, like, hey, what about this way? What if we look at it this way? One piece that we didn't clearly articulate in her update for you guys is the pathways. I don't know if you noticed on the numbers. Most of 5, 6, and 7, 8 is with Lauren. There's, I think, one exception on each team, and we just kind of said, hey, your whole team's doing this, so can you double dip? Can you do both pathways a little bit? So Lauren is actually meeting with the 7, 8 team and the 5, 6 team to work on some of those instructional strategies together. She did her first meeting last Thursday, and then from that she's doing individual meetings with everyone on the team. So she's got a really focused push in middle school right now. And then the literacy focus for K-4 is huge because, as you know, we're also doing that letters piece. We're doing the Acadian Stiples training. So a lot of that K-4 instruction for literacy, high literacy practices is there. But they do have options for working with the coach to have a lesson modeled for them.
So you're calling it, when we have the breakdown of the pathways that the staff was taking, collaborative inquiry, high leverage literacy, positive and safe communities. When you're talking about collaborative inquiry, that's not just math, that's teaching strategies, right?
Correct. So it focuses on things that are good in math, but on the one sheeter that we gave with the district goals, we made that box a little bit broader because those inquiry strategies that work well for math also will work in other disciplines. So we talked about like it working well for a science or a social studies piece and trying to get kids to ask questions in math and not just doing that search for the right answer.
And people can keep jumping in. I just have so many questions about this. It's the math piece that I'm struggling with. because-
I kind of, if I think back to June, I feel like I was under the impression that it was all math we were going to be focusing on. I don't remember ELA. Does anyone else?
I thought we were gonna be hiring the consultants to work with everybody.
So they are working with everyone, but we had everybody pick a path, because like Alex said, adults can really only do one major change at a time. So we don't want everybody to get burnt out. We're doing a lot, right? So Allie presents on Tuesday mornings when she does those PDs. Everybody gets that. But so that we're building some whole group capacity. And then in addition, getting more in support for how do you apply this in the classroom? What does that look like? Where is your growth point right now? You're new to Wit and Wisdom, let's work on that. You're teaching sixth grade math for the first time, let's work on that. So that's where Lauren's support comes in that way.
So Lauren's also working on Wit and Wisdom.
Lauren is coaching for both the math, collaborative inquiry and high leverage literacy practices, yes.
But I believe we hired those consultants for math.
They are math consultants. And when we said that we were going to have the K-4 focus on literacy and the switches with literacy instruction, they said that they could pick up the coaching for literacy. So they talked about that when they actually came and they met you guys.
I don't remember the literacy
I-
with the math consultant. I just wonder if that's taking away from the time focusing on the math. And I understand it's like teaching strategies, which is important. But I guess I'm just wondering if if Lauren, who's the boots on the ground in the classroom coaching the staff, because Allie's coaching admin, is going to have as much time as she needs to delve deeper into actually modeling lessons and things like that, and how to teach math skills.
Mhm.
Because I think what we're seeing from our test scores is, and I understand that people might have a fear of math, teaching because they don't feel comfortable with math, that we need to change our mindset about that. But I also feel that, like I was asking, I had an example, how to teach kids the relationship between fractions, decimals, and percentages. How do you teach that? Model lessons, teach me. I don't know how to teach that. You know what I mean? I'm just looking at those types of things where is having Lauren, the math consultant, working with literacy, taking her away from being able to really dive deep into math, which we're so struggling with.
So we haven't seen that. I have asked her, are we overloading you? And she says that we're not overloading her.
Okay.
Because, some teachers are going to do those initial, they're ready, they're gonna do their coaching cycles now, and some are gonna wait till the spring.
Right.
So we haven't had that pinch point yet, but we can certainly keep an eye out for it and make sure that she's getting enough time. Because you gotta remember, there's only, we only have 3 middle school math teachers. So even if she spends an hour with them each, every time she's here, she still has another half a day
Right.
to go and support other people.
Anybody else have questions about that?
I mean, yeah, I would agree. I think that we definitely went into this saying we want math consultants. And I think that knowing that they had additional capabilities, that those are being utilized, but I just don't want that to take away from the fact that we know that our weakness is math and we really need to focus on that. I worry that for an individual who's being coached, that it's if people who are nervous about math or scared of math or not comfortable with it, that maybe it's easier for them to lean towards the literacy side of the coaching and what they feel more comfortable with, and kind of maybe avoid the math topic if that option presents itself or something. I just want to make sure that we're really improving in the math area, that our teachers, especially yes, obviously middle school, but when you're in middle school, when you have teachers that just teach math, that's their thing, I think it's easier for them to focus on that. I think when you have teachers that have to teach so many things, that you have to choose where you put your focus. And so it's just.
having.
That's where we saw like a lot of weakness in our numbers, so.
So I would just remind you that in addition to that math focus, we also signed up for the letters. And letters is that instruction and literacy for K to 4. Most of our K to 4 teachers are focused in that piece because it's a big lift. So not that they're not going to get experiences from Allie and Lauren, like they may do Lauren calls them, I think they're like light coaching cycles where she may still come in, or somebody said, hey, I don't know how to model this for the kids. Can you come work this through with me? And she went down during a prep and modeled a game. So they're definitely still getting that. I just don't want to discount the heavy lift that K to 4 is doing with literacy because of that letters work this year.
It's not just letters, I mean, you got wisdom happening as well at the other grades, so.
For three
For
and up.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that Liz brought up several times is the Math and Focus editors, company, whatever, that they'll actually come in too and work with teachers, right? Do workshops.
I know in the past they have, I know that when we.
They offer online workshops right now, and we did one last year, which was helpful to some of the online resources that they
They
have.
only do online.
That is all that I've gotten
There
an
was a
email for.
person that actually lived in Dover, that was many years ago, who came in. And not only did they help us model, they did model lessons, but they helped us organize how to teach the Math and Focus, the chapters that were important. Like you don't go chapter 1 all the way through. You go through and you find the important chapters that align with the testing. So I didn't know if that was still available. If it's not, it's not. I mean, I think Math and Focus is a really hard math program.
And, one of the things that Allie and Lauren are doing are they're showing us other resources. Like Allie had mentioned, like a lot of open ed resources, because now that we have our clearly articulated competencies and those rubrics, like we know where we want them to go, we're looking for the best materials to help get kids there.
Yeah, I noticed that she said that that there's a system-wide lack of quality math curriculum, and it's a major gap that needs to be addressed. So could you talk a little bit more about that?
That Math and Focus is not universally regarded as a strong math curriculum to be using. So that there are other resources out there that get better marks. Like when you look at a What Works Clearinghouse or an Ed Report. So we're looking to make sure that we have really strong offerings for that.
So should we be looking at a new math curriculum?
I think that's where we're going.
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. I honestly am not impressed with Math and Focus myself from what I've experienced, but I mean, that is expensive.
So right now, we're looking at open resources. There's a
Okay.
lot of stuff that actually doesn't cost anything
Okay.
unless you're buying something bound instead of printing it yourself.
Okay.
So that was a lot of what we did the first 2 days. The breakout sessions, we're looking at different resources that are out there, and that's something that we're going to keep cycling back to.
So if we were to start looking at these open resources, is that more training involved and more professional development? I mean, if there's not a cost in using the material, but of course printing, would there be more training or different types of training? Because Math and Focus, like you said, Liz, is it's an odd program, I think. I do not like Math and Focus myself.
Very
I don't like the way it teaches. I think it's.
Well, I think the kids are different now. I think things are different. I think the staffing is different here
So
too.
our focus is really on curriculums come and go, quite honestly, right? So if we had that really clear, 5th grade is fractions, decimals, percents. You got to walk away from the end of 5th grade knowing how to do that.
Non-negotiables.
So we have those articulated with our competencies and our rubrics now. So now it's what materials are you going to use to get them there? Like, we know what the end assessment is. How are you going to make sure the kids are getting there? So they're pulling lots of different pieces in. And I think after investigating some this year, we'll be in a better spot to answer your question of, do we need to make a shift, and does that shift require additional PD? But right now, our PD is knowledge building, looking at other options, and being really critical on, this is my learning target. How am I going to get the students there? You know, and that is work that Allie and Lauren are doing with the teachers.
I have a question. So, with like things like open resources, I think that's like, it's neat, right? To be able to, you're not like stuck in like this box per se. Is there a plan in place to say, like, once you get to a point, you know, where you're like, okay, we've mapped this out and like we have this figured out, like that you standardize on whatever, I guess, has been brought together? Because then when I just envision, like, obviously there's turnover at times, right? And so this person leaves, the next person comes in, how do they pick up where this person left off, where there's not like this
Yeah,
this
so
textbook
eventually
that
we
you're
get to
following?
the point where we have a unit plan and we've mapped. So right now we have really clear end goals.
Yep.
We need to have clear common assessments, and then we need to have clear unit plans. So right now our unit plans are essentially, oh, well, I follow math and focus.
Right.
We know our unit plan is, in this unit, I'm looking to get these
Right.
knowledge and skills, and these are the vocabulary words that need to get done, and here's my learning activities. We're a ways off, but we will get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this year is a lot of looking at resources and making sure we have that really critical eye, leaning into getting to that place of, hey, here's the non-negotiables across the grade level, and then how you get there may look a little different in each classroom depending on what your kids are doing.
So do the open resources have a teacher's manual where you're giving them guided help with developing activities?
Yes, you know, I only looked at a couple of them. I think that's something I can have Allie give you a little more detail on. I don't want to she was great with the PD and preparing a lot of things, and I know I facilitated one of those sessions for her, but she definitely is more recent in that knowledge. So yes, there are teacher's guides. Yes, there are student activities. There's model videos that we looked at. Like Jo Bowler has this great website where she walks you through, and it's you show that video to the kids, and then there's the directions for what to do next.
So you're showing the video, the teacher's not watching it to learn how to teach the lesson herself.
You're doing it with the kids, and you're working through the activity together. And there are videos with model teaching.
Rather than having the teacher and the video teach? I mean, are you saying that
There's
both? Okay.
Her website has things that you can share directly with the kids. It's like the week of inspirational maths. And then there's videos of like her example of working with kids. So there's both, I guess.
I think that we have to recognize twofold. One is that our students are behind. It's going to take time to get them, like, you're not looking to get them all the way back in one fell swoop, right? I mean, what you're looking for is a year's growth plus some. So that's a part of what the other piece is that we have a lot of staff, and they've got a lot of growth to make, and they can only make it so fast. And so I think you just sounded shocked that you would have a video teach the kids, but let's be clear, that's exactly what Lauren's going to be doing when she finally gets to that stage of modeling, right? She's going to get up and teach a lesson, and that teacher's going to be on the participation side. So I think what Allie's trying to do and Lauren together are trying to do is to provide a lot of resources to help meet teachers where they're at in their growth. Last but not least, the one thing I think is important for the board to know, the feedback I've heard from several teachers as well as from the consultants is there's very little built-in professional development time in our year. So before the school year begins, after the school year ends, so basically this summer time period, there's a lot, right? There's opportunities for a lot. But during the school year, there's nothing really built into our schedule. In fact, we just removed even one this year. So it is a concern by both staff that have spoken to me as well as by the consultants is it's hard to find the time to do meaningful, in-depth, big picture type of work. So they have a 30-minute training. Like Allie said to me, she goes, the last one that she did, they were just getting revved up and geared into motion when all of a sudden it's time to go greet kids. And some people were distracted during that time because they were worried about, I need to go meet kids. They have the after-school teacher meeting also same kind of thing. It's the end of the day now at this point, right? So there's not a lot of built-in PD time, and that's one of the things that is being suggested that we all talk about at some point. Is there a way to build in more professional development time during the year so that you can see that opportunity happening?
I have a question about, built like, I know we've talked about like early release days before. So if we entertained an early release day, is the teacher's contract written in such a way that like if we said, okay, we're gonna have 2 early release days, so basically 2 half days of professional development, the kids go home early, does that mean that takes away from like a teacher workshop somewhere else?
No, that's not my understanding.
Okay,
But once
just
again,
because like when someone had came and like brought that proposal to us, the proposal was to take a teacher workshop day from the beginning of the year and split it in half in the middle of the year as early release. But I feel like it would be an addition to, because it's a contracted day.
As long as the kids are here until after lunch.
Okay,
they're-
so,
But didn't we, I thought what we did was we made it that we had subs committed for certain classrooms. And that it was every, what
would you
was
like me
it?
to tell you?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
by all means. So what we tried to set up, and I'm not sure how successful, like if it's every teacher K-4 or not, but the whole idea was that it started with the
I
letters,
remember
right?
seeing like.
So the letters was the thing that got this whole ball rolling. We had a grant that said, hey, we will pay for people to take this programming and for them to get paid, like to pay for a sub that could take the place of them. So the idea was that we were gonna give the letters training people a day off per month, not a day off, that's the wrong way of saying it, a work day that's not with students per month, and that we would have a substitute, and that's the work that Danny's been doing, and she's been very successful at getting more and more subs in. That a sub would cover the class, and we're trying to get them to be consistent, so if they're gonna be out 10 times over the course of the year, hopefully that same sub is the same person each of those 10 times. So that was the work that we were doing. I then, when, trying not to break Danny, but I said, can we try and expand that beyond just the letters? And we're working on it. Everything's being worked on, but what I can say is it's not even consistent amongst all the letters. Do we have every letters teacher covered at this point, or?
No, so I have 23 subs on our sub list. There are 5 of them who can only do it on school breaks. 7 are new parents who volunteered when I sent out the information, like, hey, we need help. But those 7 who volunteered, most of them are actually working full-time and going to take a vacation day to come and sub for their teacher so that the teacher can do the PE on the plan ahead stuff. So like amazing and so thoughtful and like supportive of our school. But it's a puzzle, and we've started to do the professional development PD days and it's still a puzzle. We need more help with that.
So for the professional development days, you still need more subs. Should we put that out there?
We have, it's
Again?
posted
That's
everywhere.
About the professional development now? I know it says we need subs, but.
I mean, there's like, I don't remember, sent home like a letter or email, like I remember getting it was just like a letter just about that.
Letter, and then I did individual letters to everybody K-4.
Yep.
Because that was originally the
That's
focus area.
yeah.
Yep. So I've been talking with Erin and Lauren about like, okay, so when you guys are getting into these coaching cycles and you need release coverage, how do you want to do it? Like I can probably get you one person. I may not be able to get you a team of people. So they've been great about thinking, okay, well, we'll do it this way instead of this other way. So they're being very thoughtful about how to make that work so that we can use that. It just may be a block of time instead of a half of a morning.
So when will we be able to have either Lauren or Ally here to meet with us? I mean, we had Erin. I know that one was ill.
I had a quick conversation with with Ally this morning, and she and Lauren have been talking, and they've got 3 potential suggestions for additional conversation or additional work for the board. One of the things they suggested was building a Google Doc that you could write questions in anytime you want, and that they will work to answer those on approximately a monthly basis. So step 1 was that you would have this monthly feedback where you could put questions in and you could get answers back from them. A second, and these could be 1, 2, or all 3. I'm just going to share all 3 at the same time. Another one was that once every 2 months to provide an update to the board, which would mean the next, so this would be an update, the next update would be December, the one after that February, then April, then June. They don't feel there's enough time to do one every month. There's just not enough time that's elapsed for them to be able to show progress. So that's the second one. And then the third one was they said they'd be more than willing to do a board retreat, not a board meeting, but a board retreat where we kind of step away from the board meeting and we have this opportunity to really dive into talking about strategy, behavior, structures, norms, things of that idea. So those are the three things that they put on the list for me this morning that I can share with you tonight as part of this update, was to say, here's how they think they can, properly help keep the board in the loop of what's going on, to get your feedback, things of that nature.
So they would come to a board meeting?
I don't know if they will physically come.
I
That
mean,
was not one of the things that they
or
put on there. They
Zoom.
said they would provide an update once every 2 months.
Well, they would provide an update.
Yep. So I'm not sure that they're feeling, once again, I don't know. I didn't ask them this. I'm not sure that's part of the plan. She gave me those three options. I'll stop there. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth.
I thought that one was going,
Ally was going to be here tonight, but then, like I said, she couldn't. So whether or not they can in the future, I don't know. That wasn't on the list of things that they offered
Okay.
this morning.
The reason it's nice what happened tonight was that this is being recorded, and so parents are watching it too. And they're, might have questions like we were asking. So
They are, so Erin's doing our first family night. I'll just add Ally's doing the second one. So hers will be November 2nd. So that'll be another chance for conversations too.
So I'm adding, can one of them be part of option 2, which was the once every 2 months board update?
The Zoom is fine.
Yeah, the Zoom is fine, and I feel that since it's the beginning of the year, we should have like an update, have them even Zoom. And then, maybe once in the middle of the year, and then our final one at the end or something like that. What do people think? But we haven't seen them. It's different when you're getting like a written report than you're being able to talk to somebody.
I'd rather do it, like, if they can't be here in person, I'd rather do a Zoom.
I would too.
The idea of the Google Doc where we could ask questions too, because that might help us focus in on what we want to talk about during a Zoom meeting, or I might answer some questions ahead of time.
That's a good idea.
I think that might help.
Okay.
So I think that would be a good thing.
So I hear 1 and 2, and 2 potentially having the addition of them being there via Zoom.
Yeah.
What about 3? Is there any desire at this time, for a board retreat where you would be able to really dive in deep?
I don't think
at
at this time.
I don't think we know enough
Yeah, that's
right now.
So not yet.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
I would,
No problem.
I
I got it. Thanks.
I just have one question. Is there anything, I know it's still very early in the process, but is there anything that we think would be targeted for future budgeting? Like, are they making recommendations that we need to consider as we went to budget season?
Yep, so
Or are you guys?
Oh, go ahead. We've been talking about this as well for
Okay,
next
I
year.
wrote
Yeah.
that
So go
down
ahead.
too.
Yeah, so we are keeping that in mind with the budget for next year. What we'll suggest is about half, with the idea of like, hey, this year was getting us up and started. We don't want to drop that all away.
Right.
So if we budget for about half, then we can keep up with the coaching cycles and keep that going. Or if the focus is, and I really have their support with the PD days, and that's where we put that focus, and, so that's where we're going. We have looked at the grants, so we know how much will be in the grants that maybe we could earmark and allocate for their support, and then we'll have a sheet with the number for, hey, this should probably be in the local operating budget.
So, because we don't know the outcome yet of this year, we don't know what consultant we want to use, right? If we have the outcome that we're hoping to have, because it's still early, right? We need to see how things go.
So the problem's going to be that you're not going to be able to see anything before you have to make budgetary decisions. So
Right.
whether or not you continue with this consulting group is up to you, but we do need to be talking and probably basing it off of a real entity so that we know that we've at least budgeted for a
Right.
realistic number moving into next year. So that's the plan that we're going to be bringing to you at the next meeting. We have a list of suggestions. Whether the board wants them or not will be completely up to you, obviously. But that's one of the suggestions. And we talked about next year cutting it in half. So it was like around 200, let's just say, or 20, I think it was, or something like that, dropping it to about 110. And then if that goes well, once again, then we look the following year to maybe cut that in half again. And then at that point, we really have to decide, where do we want to continue going? So most rollouts of most real initiatives are about 3 years. So that's why we're saying to you, we've already thinking 2 years ahead here. And each year should get lighter, right? In other words, more and more people that are here, as long as the turnover doesn't happen, more and more people should be more and more comfortable with the work. And really that consultant that's coming in year 2 and then again in year 3 is slowly scaling back the supports that are not needed as often. Now, if the board disagreed with that, and either direction, we want less, we want more, we're happy to flex in any direction you want. We're just trying to come up with a long-term plan, and the thought that we had was, if each year we cut it in half, then we're at least continuing that process with the hope that we're seeing that much growth. The big part that would hurt is if a bunch of people left, right? If a bunch of people roll over, then all of a sudden we might not have built the solid base that we needed to be able to have the next group that gets hired have that support. So if we can keep people in place for at least a couple of years, then we really would potentially have a solid base with that, and we wouldn't need to worry as much about needing consultants to come back all the time. So
And it's also possibly changing the curriculum and then needing training for that. And I know what you're talking about, the open source, but no matter what, you have to train.
And the mindset shift is that we're professionally developing the teacher on best practices instead of professionally developing someone to follow a teacher's manual. I guguess it's not necessarily, I'm not being articulate.
I know, I hear what you're saying. You're talking about teaching strategies right now, and that's what we're focusing on. But as far as, able to understand the concepts to be able to teach them out.
But that would come through writing a unit plan. So if you do a whole unit plan where you have your competencies, your assessment, and then all of your daily objectives, that's where you get that knowledge. And you can do that with a curriculum, or you can do it with open, so you can do it with whatever you want. Like, it becomes your framework then.
Right.
And the hope is that the training that they're getting right now and that they'll be getting throughout the year and hopefully into next year and hopefully the year afterwards will be giving them the development that they need to utilize any material. So if you become skilled enough at teaching fractions, it doesn't matter what tool you have. You
Right.
already know how to teach fractions. It's kind of like what we're doing with letters right now, right? We're teaching them the science behind reading. So then at that point, it doesn't matter which curriculum you have, you'll just utilize that tool. It becomes a tool as opposed to your lifeline.
Right.
A lot of teachers right now rely on a textbook. That is their lifeline. If you took a textbook away from some people, they'd collapse. Not everybody, but I'm saying a lot of people would. And so what we're going to try and do is teach them how to understand the curriculum and understand the structure well enough that I don't care what tool I have. You give me a textbook, I'll use it. You give me some open source, I'll use it. If I, have a video online, I'll use that. I'll use whatever I need. But to Liz's point from earlier, it's got to be structured well enough, and those tools have got to be readily available enough that a person feels confident, right?
Right.
So down the road, the hope would be that every single one of those units has that material, whether it's open source, textbook, videos, whatever, that's already readily available and attached to that item. So a new teacher, I think to your point, right? New teacher comes in and says, hey, I've never taught this before. Hey, here is an entire curriculum. Here are the materials that the last person was using. But as time goes by, you might start there, but as time goes by, you might be able to say, well, hey, I understand this concept. I want to pull a different tool, and that tool is not comfortable for me, or it's dated, or the kids didn't connect with it. I'm going to find another tool that I'm going to bring in to replace it with. But it's there. It's entirely there, and it's put together.
I think the difference was you mentioned a specific math concept that people learned how to teach fractions. So it's not just how to teach, but how to teach a concept, a math concept. So that's, you hear what I'm saying? It's like not just a strategy, it's in general teaching, it's the math concepts.
That's the
like what
ultimate
I'm
goal,
sort of-
right?
yeah.
That everybody would, that I think it's fifth grade is fractions. Am I still correct?
You
Okay.
wanna do because
Every
that's
fifth grade
what-
teacher, whoever that is, even the math teacher, the science teacher, the social studies, everybody should understand in fifth grade what a fraction is and how to teach kids fractions and how to make sure they're getting exposed to fractions. Because if you just rely on one teacher in one room, the kids compartmentalize, right? They've got to see it across all genres. And so figuring out how to help the social studies teacher bring that concept around. I remember in my day we had shop, and I loved shop because shop taught fractions, right? Like when you measured wood, the shop teacher never said, give me something 4 inches long. No, that teacher said, give me 4.25 inches. And you suddenly had to know how to do that. So that was, I missed that.
You just changed a fraction into a decimal.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Now, all right, now we're gonna go on from that to parent night information. I think we covered that. Girls in the Run.
So I just wanted to share that the Girls on the Run program has started, and they actually capped out their attendance with 15 students this year. And I just shared that one of their letters that they send home each week. So we have a sample of what they work on with the girls. And then just wanted to confirm, we had heard that the athletic dress code had been approved and we were directed to update the handbook, so we did do that. I just
All right,
Was
so,
this a
We're
good
gonna add
place?
one,
This
we're
is
gonna
a
add
good
one
time.
word. We're adding one word
Okay.
to that.
Okay.
I'm gonna make a motion to amend the wording of the athletic dress code to add the word blouse.
Okay, do we have a second?
Oh, second.
Any discussion? This is following the words used for the Co-Brown dress code for athletics for game day. All right, anybody else? Okay, Eric,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Jess, and Debbie. Okay, done. All right, correspondence. Any correspondence? Do we have any correspondence?
check.
I don't think so. Thank you.
Do we have correspondence?
I'm not aware. I don't think.
I don't think we
I
had
don't think we
anything.
had any.
I don't
Okay.
think so. I don't feel like we did.
All right, community calendar?
Oh.
Time again, huh? Oh,
my
Today's tomorrow's the 12th.
I did get correspondence, remember from Barrett Christina, we were talking last
Oh, yeah.
time.
Yes, yes.
There was confusion as to whether or not we were able to just subscribe to the policy services. We are not, so it's in addition to.
All right, committee updates, because we also have to do our resolutions.
Yes,
Okay. All right, policy committee, anything?
we have a meeting the 20th? I thought we scheduled a meeting the 20th.
I don't believe I've been scheduled.
Oh, I thought we discussed it. I don't know.
No, we discussed it at the last meeting. You and I discussed our availabilities, but I don't think we ever got anything on the calendar.
Okay,
So I said I was available some Fridays, depending what they were, but it's a busy time of the year. So we should get some.
I'm trying to schedule one.
Okay. All right, and since the policy, you're on both committees, Eric, look at that policy about the capital reserve. Yeah, because we need to, I think we have to update, if we have one, which I believe we do, we have to update it, and we need to follow it, like having a plan.
What's the name of the policy?
It was a long-term capital improvement.
Okay, I'll find it.
Okay. That was the only one out of that list of, they sent that email that had the legislation, all the changes in the legislation, that how it impacted different policies.
Yeah, that law
There's
will
one
go into
other
effect
one.
at the first of the year, I think.
Yeah, there was one other one that I thought was, no, I don't remember, but we need to look at that. Okay, so facilities committee,
I think we already touched on a bunch of things. Eric and I have been reviewing the facilities charter. We talked about the electric bills and dig a little deeper into the consumption piece. And we talked about the RFPs. I think we touched on the majority of.
Yep,
I wonder if our former facility director, if we can have any communication with him about settings. If there's certain settings on these things that, you know what I mean, on the ERBs, like if there's settings like that we used to.
I've reached out a couple of times about things back shortly after the departure, and I didn't get responses. I mean, I did the first couple of times, but then after that, I didn't get more responses. So
Okay,
it's not that it's impossible, it's just I don't want to push because
Right.
that person's retired. And
right, great, okay. So, I see the conservation deed is here, that just reminds me, did we hear anything else from the engineers?
I haven't heard back from the engineers yet, no, but I can definitely follow up with them. I've had my focus on budget and my food service inspection that's coming up, so.
Okay, so food service committee, we've been getting those pictures,
Yes.
photos of the food and
Just
the
sent you another one.
updates.
Looks good.
It does look like there's some good improvement.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we've been getting updates about the 3 homemade meals a week and how those are prepared and the ingredients, and so.
And I think did say that, is it Carrie?
Cara.
Cara,
C-A-R-A.
okay, Cara, who is sort of the regional manager.
She's the new Frank.
She's the new Frank. She's been actually doing the training. Is that what I'm getting?
She did the training, but she also said that the other person that they had talked about was
Yeah.
gonna be coming in and
Good.
do, I sent that email to you. I don't remember the
Okay.
details of it unfortunately, but that person's supposed to be coming in X amount of time. Yeah, but she did the one training on, well, she did the pizza. She worked with her on the
She did
pizza.
something else.
And she did another thing recently.
Right.
I'm trying to send you everything I get. I try to send you, but,
And I'd be interested to, I was interested about, not that it matters, but they had mentioned those new breakfast items that they were implementing. Just curious, I would be interested to see pictures of those if they've implemented them here. I forget, they were like gonna be like breakfast
Bites.
Breakfast bites,
Something
yeah.
like that, yeah.
but I don't know if they've actually been implemented, they were just talking about them, but
Okay, Education Committee, you have a meeting with the deans?
that's next week.
Oh, good, exciting. Good.
Yeah, it's on Wednesday, so I'll be able to make the family night here, but.
Uh,
So yeah, so there was something, Danny, remind me, you had mentioned something the last time I brought up the dean's meeting,
Wanting our middle school teachers to go shadow.
shadows.
Yep, so, and I called Headmaster Smith, and he said he was gonna tell the deans to put it on agendas for Bridges meetings.
Okay.
I have about half of the Bridges meetings minutes back, and it was not in the minutes.
Okay,
Doesn't mean it wasn't talked about, but it was in the
Right.
minutes. I think the last one meets this week, so I'll put those in a future board report for you guys.
Okay.
So they may be setting it up on the side, but I really want our middle school team to get up there
Yes,
and
I
I
think that's a great idea.
But they used to welcome them, so I don't understand why it's not happening. Why?
I think it's just working out the logistics.
Yeah.
Headmaster Smith was
Yeah.
very much on board, and I think it's just making sure
They'll
that
do
we fix
it.
some
Oh,
things.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They loved having people there.
Well, it makes
So
their
you-
job easier.
Do you have the Bridges? You said you're gonna give us the Bridges minutes?
Yep, so it's looking like for the November meeting, I'll give them to you, which will be nice, we'll let Matt go around.
Before we go
Science
to
is
our
meeting this week. Yep, so they'll be in the board packet.
Okay, good.
I asked her to wait till November because October 25th is our budget night, and I'm just worried about too much other stuff being on that agenda.
Okay.
yeah.
If you want it earlier, I know she's got one. I received it as well. And she said
You know what, yeah, if we should definitely have it in the packet, by the
November
25th.
The 25th packet.
Because we want to, not that we have to discuss it so much as we want time to read it, because November 8th, we're gonna have that meeting with Co-Brown.
But you still have the October 8th board packet a week before that meeting.
Okay.
All I'm worried about is I don't
Alright.
think you have them all yet.
I don't
Alright,
have them all,
okay, that's
they're all
fine.
meeting.
So we're
Alright,
okay
that's
with that?
fine. As
Okay.
long as we have it
So
a
we'll
week
leave-
before.
So we'll leave it in the November
Yeah,
8th
that's-
packet, which will
that's
come
fine.
to you a week before the meeting.
All right, so have you had any other education committee? Good. All right, wellness committee.
We're meeting Monday.
Okay. All right.
You sound excited.
We're meeting Monday.
Transportation committee.
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Athletic committee.
No,
Okay. All right, here we go. What we're all looking forward to, Eric, the New Hampshire School Board Delegate Assembly, the resolutions.
So
Did you sign up for that meeting?
I think so.
Okay, I just want to make sure you did, because I
If
saw
not,
that there
I'm
was.
gonna double check.
Go sign up, because I think you were supposed to sign up.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
That's why I don't go yet.
So did everybody get a chance to review
Yes.
these? Because I just kind of jotted down my opinion on each one, and we're gonna make a decision tonight. So I was just gonna go through them. Number 8,
Yeah.
which is on page 90 of the board packet. So the proposed resolution is the NHSBA opposes any policy affecting curriculum that enables parents, guardians, or other individuals or organizations to circumvent already extant local school board review policies and exposes teachers to civil suits and sanctions at the state level. And the NHSBA does not support this. So
Okay, so,
I just wanted to, I don't know how we want to do this. I'll just make a motion to everybody to vote and then we can discuss it.
so make sure when you make the motion, make it clear whether we're supporting the School Board Association's recommendation. or are we going to just support the resolution? You know what I mean? There's two different
Yes, I was
ways.
gonna go with the resolution itself.
Okay,
So I move that we do not support the proposed resolution
submitted by Oyster River.
submitted by Oyster River.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will second.
Discussion?
So I have a question. So if we don't support the resolution, does that mean that we support the NHSBA?
Yes.
Yes, we are
Okay.
actually in agreement
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so, oh my goodness. All right, so when I call your name, you can just say nay or yay. Okay? All right. Eric,
Yes,
you're supporting the resolution?
No, it's his motion. He's saying yes to his motion,
Oh.
which is to not support.
Thank you. Oh, you're supporting, was this motion not to support? Okay, I didn't, I
Yes.
thought you said
The
do we
motion was
support?
opposed to the Oyster
Oh,
River Cooperative.
okay, okay, you're opposed to it. Okay, so you're saying yes. I'm glad that you just clarified. I thought it's getting too late.
it is.
All right. Oh my goodness.
We're saying yes
So
to
I'm
no.
saying-
Okay, we are,
No to
we're
this, but
opposed
yes
to
to
this.
that.
Okay,
Yes.
so if we vote yes,
If I
we're
say
opposed.
yes.
Eric,
Correct.
yes, opposed.
If you say yes, you agree.
Okay, I'm gonna, yeah, yes.
See.
Explaining it to me too.
All right, Liz, yes.
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Jess, and Debbie, yes. Okay, so we are all opposed to that, and we agree with the School Board
New Hampshire.
Association.
Okay.
Phew,
Oh my goodness, and that was only the first
it'll
one.
go easier.
Oh, boy.
Oh my, okay. Oh, if Danielle is no longer, if she wants to go home, this is, it's up to you. You don't need to stay. It's up to you.
I guess my question was, you said you were going back to non-public, and I don't know what's for. Is there
Oh,
anything that you would
she's
care
not gonna,
about?
Danielle
No, okay.
will not need to be
Don't
here.
look so sad.
Okay, she looks. it's
Sorry,
like-
7:30 leadership meeting
Yeah,
tomorrow
okay.
morning. I did a poor
It
job
just hit me
scheduling.
that it's like almost 10 o'clock.
Thank you guys.
Okay. Alrighty, so this is the Dover one. Can we vote to, oh, never mind.
Okay, so,
Where are we?
this proposed, number 9, the proposed resolution from the Dover School Board. The NHSBA affirms the qualification of school librarians to research and select appropriate digital and printed material for school libraries, recognizing that marginalized groups have been historically underrepresented in school libraries. Literacy collections should offer students information that provides a balance of ethnic, political, religious, and cultural values. Further, library material should represent diverse points of view, provide a global perspective, stimulate critical thinking skills, and meet the interests, abilities, learning styles, and information needs of the learning community. So, my opinion is not to support that one because I feel like it's asking for legislative lobbying that circumvents the school boards who are supposed to have the authority to make those decisions, and it's trying to allow that responsibility to be solely under the librarians.
I agree with you. I think it's so broad that we may be opening up something that we don't think is age appropriate, or that maybe it should be something that parents should be, because this is not the town library, this is
So
an elementary school with little kids.
Yes, we already have, it sounds like they want to oppose the laws that are in place that allow the school boards to make the decisions for what's appropriate for the school and allow that decision to rest solely on the librarian.
I agree.
So I'm going to make my motion to not support this proposed resolution. So I move that we do not support the proposed resolution number 9 of the Dover School Board.
Okay,
I will
so, second, okay, so discussion?
Can I ask again? So if we,
If you say yes, you're agreeing with his motion.
To not support.
Yes
Which-
to no.
So,
But do you support the
so there's an alternative, so how are we gonna
do you
handle that? Are we gonna
support
do,
the NHSBA?
I do not, I don't
should we do
support.
two separate motions?
No,
Or-
no,
Or
it's-
is it just no to the whole?
I just don't think we should try and circumvent school boards. We should
They
support.
just basically reworded it a little bit.
Yeah,
It's basically the same thing, they
It
just
is.
wordsmithed.
But, right, so it'll just be, so is it technically no to the proposed alternative solution, or just the whole
So do you wanna
resolution in
reword,
general?
do you wanna reword your motion to include both?
I would,
did you second it, Katrina?
I did.
So
yeah.
then I will
So-
amend it to include also not supporting the proposed alternative resolution of the NHSBA.
I will amend my second.
Okay, discussion? All right, Eric,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Jess? Yes. Deb? Yes. Okay. Where are we now? 92, 93, okay. Okay,
So number 10, submitted by the Raymond School Board, a proposed resolution to include an estimate of actual food service costs for the upcoming year in preparation for the upcoming default budget. This is sounded like, it's like more appropriate for SB2 towns because it has a default budget, but
you're right.
they're just looking for as good and accurate numbers as possible.
Yeah.
I support it. The NHSBA doesn't because it sounds like they're saying, well, there's so many other things. Why don't you come back with us and focus on them all? But I think we should support it because, I mean, at least it's one thing to support it. And if they want to go after something else to support next year, there's no,
It doesn't have, we don't
Has
have to
nothing to do
do
with
this. We have
Has
nothing to do
I
with it.
don't, I,
So if you wanna support it because you're helping SB2 towns, we're not involved in this.
so do we want to
just not.
I would not
abstain from
vote
this
for
one?
it. I would
Yeah.
abstain.
Yeah.
All right. So I move that we abstain from number 10 at the delegate assembly.
I will second.
Okay, and Eric,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Jess, and Debbie, yes. All right. Okay. 95.
Number 11.
Okay.
Yep. Submitted by the Monadnock Regional School Board on July 18th. The NHSBA will support any legislation that intends to streamline the recruiting, credentialing, and hiring of certified teachers from other states. This resolution is in support of both state of NH credentialing laws as well as the interstate compact of reciprocity between NH and neighboring states. This resolution also supports changes to reduce barriers to teachers from other states who wish to transfer retirement savings from their current retirement program into the NH retirement system. So they just want to make things easier to get teachers from other states credentialed. I'm in favor of supporting this.
And the
So-
alternate resolution
Yeah.
is very similar, it's just cleaner.
Yeah, so you want to support the School Board Association's proposed alternate resolution. They're supporting it, but they
Yep.
just
Okay.
wordsmithed it.
So I move that we support the number 11 proposed resolution of the Monadnock Regional School Board under the proposed alternative language of the NHSBA.
All right, do we have a second
I will second.
discussion? This is anything to get more people certified in the state. I think it's a good thing. Okay, Eric,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Katrina.
Yes.
Jess, and Debbie, yes, okay. Okay. Next,
Number 12, from the Monadnock Regional School Board. Proposed resolution, NHSBA that will support legislation that clarifies the responsibility and accountability of parents and guardians of students who do not conduct themselves according to local laws and school policies. NHSBA will also support legislation that clarifies the protocols for school districts to follow in disciplining students and holding parents and guardians accountable. I'll go right into the alternative language on this one, because the NHSBA proposed alternative languages. The NHSBA urges the New Hampshire Legislature and Department of Education to clarify the responsibilities, obligations, and rights of school boards and districts when students do not attend school on a regular basis, are habitually truant, or otherwise do not conform to the rules and regulations of the district. So I think we should support that, as they're just supporting clarification whenever possible to help make things clearer when it comes to those issues. So I move that we accept number 12 under the NHSBA proposed alternative language as read.
Okay. All right,
I will second.
discussion. Okay, Eric,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Jess, and Debbie, yes. All right.
Number 13, submitted by the Monadnock Regional School Board. NHSBA will support legislation that creates flexibility for town moderators and moderators of cooperative school districts to postpone school district elections in the event of inclement weather. This is for cooperative school districts. They all have to vote on the same day and when there's weather storms, but we can abstain
Let's
from this one.
abstain.
Yeah.
All right. So I move that we abstain from number 13 as it's not applicable to us.
I will second.
Okay, Eric,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Jess, and Debbie, yes.
Number 14 from Manchester School Board. The Manchester Board of School Committee proposes that the language of the Resolution 2C be amended to be strengthened as follows: to increase funding significantly for building aid. NHSBA supports additional appropriations under RSA 198-15A4, the state's building aid program, to adequately fund all necessary school facility needs. This program has effectively created local and state partnerships in financing school building improvements that benefit all students of New Hampshire and would be considered a significant part of fulfilling the state's constitutional duty to provide an adequate education to all children. I'm good with supporting this. It would just, try to have the state fund building
This is,
projects.
that's how we were able to get our building project done, is with state funding.
Okay, so I move that we support the proposed resolution of the Manchester School Board as read.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will second.
Okay, discussion. All right, Eric,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Jess, and Debbie, yes.
Number 15, submitted by the Manchester School Board. We propose strengthening the language of the continuing resolution 2S, advocate for funding for universal pre-K programming and related facilities costs. I don't support it because I don't think we need to get into universal pre-K, and that would turn into universal daycare. I mean, it just keeps getting younger and younger.
All right,
So
motion.
I move that we don't support this resolution as presented.
All right, do we have a second?
I will second.
Discussion?
I have a question. I
Sure.
mean, supporting it doesn't mean it's mandatory.
I think, what you're saying, I don't think it does, but I also hear what Eric is saying, that do you want to go down the road of mandatory kindergarten, but you don't want to have mandatory preschool at some point. I think, is that what you're looking at, that it's going to become, if you
Yeah,
start
well,
funding it?
it's advocating for funding also, so they're trying to put in place everything related to pre-K to have
Some
it
people
funded.
might not want to commit their kids to pre-K.
Right.
And it would, I assume it would still be optional.
Yeah.
Right.
Kindergarten still is.
Yeah,
Right.
kindergarten technically still
Right.
is, but
As an early childhood educator, I definitely support this because I know that there are children who don't get what they need.
Can I make an observation? Am I allowed? I know this is a board thing, that's why I'm not sure.
If you want to, sure.
Just one observation, which is that my kid just finished preschool. It was almost impossible to find one. There's waiting lists that are,
Anything to help.
and if this was to provide just more opportunity for preschool, I guarantee you there'd be people that would jump on it. But I understand your point. I was saying, that's my problem, is that there's just not enough of it. The private sector isn't providing enough.
Okay. Did you make your motion?
Yes, he did.
Did we have and we have a second? I'm sorry,
Yes.
I think so.
Yes.
And we're discussing.
Did I
Yeah.
So, as we further discuss, my motion was to not support, so if you vote yes, you're not supporting it. If you vote no, you do support this.
Okay, all right, Eric,
Yes.
Liz,
No,
Katrina,
Yes.
Jess,
No.
and Debbie. I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna go again only because I don't want to see it mandatory.
Wait,
Maybe it's
wait,
because
saying
no.
yes
are you
then.
saying?
So you
So
mean
say
yes.
yes, I don't
Or
want to.
no?
Maybe it's because I was able to stay home with my kids, and that's different. You know what I mean? Like I was able to be with them, so I think I may have a different perspective that I like to be with them and stay home. That's me.
Number 6.
Okay.
Okay, number 16, submitted by the Manchester School Board. We support advocating for state sustainability incentives, opportunities, and targeted goals for energy efficiency and the expansion of renewable energy resources for electric school buses, capital funding dedicated to sustainably related building, construction, renovation, and infrastructure. So the NHSBA does not support this. They think it's not related to school board governance, essentially. I don't support this, so I move that we do not support this proposed resolution as read.
I will second.
Okay, discussion. Why do I see Elon Musk?
So remember, a yes is a no.
I know.
Yes is no.
Yes is no.
I agree
Okay.
with Eric, so it's gonna be.
Okay, all right,
whatever
Eric.
it says.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Liz. Katrina. Jess.
Yes.
And Debbie, yes. Okay. All right, are we just about done?
I think there's like
My goodness.
3 more.
3 to
Oh my
7 more. I
goodness.
don't know.
All right.
3 more.
Okay. Number 17, from the Manchester School Board. We propose advocating that Medicaid be used as a primary calculator for free and reduced lunch for NH school districts, advocating for the state to join the Medicaid Direct Certification Program, advocate that Medicaid to schools be revised to allow greater flexibility in sign-off by guidance counselors, etc., reduce administrative burden on and fund an increase in per service fees. So
They also suggest some alternative language. So whatever you say, do it.
I'm just gonna I'll read the alternative language real quick. The NHSBA supports legislation and rulemaking that requires the state of NH and the NHDOE to participate in the federal Medicaid Direct Certification Program to calculate eligibility more accurately for free and reduced lunch programs. NHSBA supports legislation and rulemaking that helps make Medicaid to schools funding more accessible for school districts by allowing greater flexibility in sign-off by guidance counselors, etc., and by supporting implied parental consent and a clearly defined and executable opt-out process for accessing public benefits for students with disabilities. And NHSBA will support legislation and rulemaking that proposes an increase in per-service fees under Medicaid programs. I am in support of that alternative language. Sounds like they want to streamline things and find a way to get more funding. So I move that we accept the proposed alternative language of the NHSBA and support this resolution.
Okay, second
Second.
discussion.
Yes means yes.
Yeah, the only thing I wish that they would
Just
have.
helping, I'm helping Liz.
No, I agree with the concept. I wish that they wouldn't have added 3, that they want to have an increase in their service, in their fees for the programs, like sort of defeats the purpose, but
So,
whatever.
you know, there was-
Yeah. Okay. All right, there you go. Eric
Yes.
and Liz
Yes.
and Katrina,
Yes.
Jess, yeah, and Debbie, yes, okay.
Okay. Number 18,
That sounds like it's very good. Let's just agree to it.
It's to pull themselves out of the NHSBA.
yeah,
Okay.
so
The national,
I propose we accept the NHSBA's recommendation, as everyone has read, to just clean up the language from removing ourselves from the National School Board Association.
Okay,
Oh, second?
all right, discussion. Okay, Eric,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Jessica, and Debbie, yes.
All right, number 19, proposed resolution. The NHSBA will advocate to the NH State Legislature to create a universal and subsidized meal program for New Hampshire public schools. And it's just, they just want to,
This one, they said it was submitted after the deadline,
Oh,
so
yeah.
it doesn't officially have to be voted on. However, if you have a 2/3 majority, that they will vote on it, so I think we should vote on it anyway.
Yep.
So you wanna make a motion?
so I move that we support the advocation of the state legislature to create a universal and subsidized meal program for NH public schools.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second?
Discussion? I'm shocked that you're supporting it, but I support it too. I think we did this last year.
I
Didn't support
know,
it.
and
It's gonna have ripple
You're
effects,
coming
but-
around, you're coming around.
Oh, no, I'm going to amend my motion.
No, you're not. Are you really?
I am.
Oh my goodness. we
I
should listen
had
to
that one read wrong. No, I don't think we should be determining universal things. That takes away our ability to create a menu.
Well, I thought it was more that they were trying to make sure everybody had food.
Yeah, that's
All
what
the
it's about.
children, all the children
Kids
had
need to
meals.
eat.
So that's what it's, and I think the last year when this came up, you worded it differently. You felt like
Yeah.
once they start controlling it, then
And I
we
still
lose
feel
control.
that way.
I've actually heard really good things about Maine's program
Yeah.
that they have in place.
Yeah.
From people that
Everybody
live in
has-
Maine.
Everybody has free lunch in Maine.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and like
Same
they
in
have
Boston too.
like it's like local food sources and
Yeah.
stuff. I've heard
And they
really
did it
good
for
things
2
about
years under COVID, and there
Right.
was a lot of positive feedback
yeah.
from a lot of people. Like,
Yes.
kids' nutrition levels went up dramatically during that time period because everybody was getting a meal.
I shouldn't have said it.
No, so if nobody supports, if nobody seconds my amendment, then,
We could do it again. Yeah. Or we could just vote.
Yes.
No, we
Vote
just
against
vote,
you.
yeah, we can.
yeah, you can vote
second
against me.
it.
Okay.
Vote
Do we
against
do
you.
our-
No,
did
but
you
I
amend
shouldn't
it
have said
already?
anything.
I attempted to amend it. Is there gonna be a second?
Oh,
Well, yeah, but no, we can second it. and
Yeah,
then we can
second-
vote.
second-
I
yeah,
second it.
yeah.
I amend my second.
okay.
So now,
All right, so
Yes.
if we
Yes,
vote,
please, no.
if we vote with you, we have to vote, if we agree with you, we have to vote yes.
Correct.
But if we don't agree, we say
Vote no.
no.
That's right,
Okay.
yes means no. If you say yes, you're saying no to this, to this.
Oh, okay. So
Okay,
what is it?
Eric,
Yes.
Liz,
No.
Katrina,
no.
Jess,
No.
Debbie, no. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's what we're here for.
That's why
That's
but
why
I
we're
shouldn't,
for it.
but I shouldn't have said anything the first time because when you said you supported it, I went, what? Eric, we had such a big discussion about this last year.
That's
We
what.
did.
Okay, all right.
And I stand
Now we
by.
are finally done with those. Okay, thank you, Eric, for going.
Yes.
Thank you
Yes,
for doing
thank
Yeah,
that.
thanks, because.
Okay. Oh my gosh, and I'm sorry, it's after 10. What else do we have to do before?
Just to confirm, the November 8th board meeting is now confirmed at Co-Brown, like they have sent us a confirmation.
Okay, so now we have all those school board meetings you can see for yourself. And we're gonna have our first budget pass on the 25th, right?
October.
On October 25th. Other, we had an
So,
other.
we have a couple of others, you tell me if you want to do them. So the first other was the 2 special ed folks.
So I move, I'm gonna find that first, so I have it in front of me. I move we accept this proposal to address special education administrative support as discussed in non-public, but presented here.
Okay,
I will second.
okay. Discussion. Weren't we going to make the motion that it was going to be a temporary situation to be reevaluated monthly? Do you want to amend your motion?
I will amend that motion to reevaluate this on a monthly basis.
And this is a temporary situation,
This is a
right?
temporary
Because
situation,
we're not
yes.
hiring these people permanently, right?
I will amend my second.
Okay, so discussion, so we have, the need of a temporary, special ed people that will do some student service director type things.
Correct.
And, we are using 2 consultants, Susan Bradley and Toby Chassie. And, we're gonna discuss this more next month, right? Okay, anything else? Okay, Eric,
Yes,
Liz.
Yes.
Katrina.
Yes.
Jess, and Debbie.
And are you okay doing those 3 changes of employment? Like we had to hire 2 people and we have to change
Yes.
the employment.
Yes, yes.
And this out. 1, 2, 3. 2. I do try and keep last minute things out of the packet, but we're trying to fill positions.
Okay.
And one of them is, in my opinion, uber important, so. Let's see here. Okay. I think you all have them now. So the first one I'm looking at is Kendra Dakota, to move her from the position of paraprofessional to a grade 7-8 math teacher, effective tomorrow.
Do we have a second, do we have a nomination?
so I move we accept the nomination of Kendra Dakota to be a 7th, 8th math teacher at a salary of $44,292 from the 1,100 line of the local operating budget to start tomorrow. Benefits per the CBA.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will second.
Okay, so basically Kendra has completed all the necessary coursework to be certified.
She now has a statement of eligibility to be a middle school math teacher, and she'll have 3 years to get her beginning plan done.
Okay.
But she's now, it's a category where we hire a lot of people, so yes.
Oh, I see. She has longevity. So there's a discrepancy in
Cost of position, because there's a
her
total.
contract.
Oh,
If you
the
flip to the
longevity
back
wasn't
and the
included on
number.
the-
Okay.
The
But we don't-
longevity's
Right.
already there. What I didn't do was put it on this
That's
cover sheet.
okay.
We don't
Otherwise,
normally discuss longevity in the salary.
Yeah.
So,
Fine.
okay,
Okay, so we had a second, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so here we go, I'm sorry. Eric,
yes.
Liz,
Yes.
Katrina,
Yes.
Jess, and Debbie. Okay, done. I want to sign her contract,
Yes.
because she has a.
I gave it to, is that it?
Is
Yep,
this
that's
the
it.
one?
There it is.
Okay. I'm just gonna sign it because she has a different contract now.
All right, next on this is Linda Moore, Title I paraprofessional. So we found a person who wants to come in and do some Title I work with us for the paraprofessional rate that has been allotted in the past. So this person is willing to come in part-time. You can see the details there, and is being strongly recommended by Danny and Melissa tonight.
Okay, so I move we accept the nomination of Linda Laurer for Title I paraprofessional at a cost of $18.42 per hour, paid for from the Title I grant. Up to 20 hours a week, up to 180 days a year.
She's starting tomorrow too.
She actually might not, we're still waiting on a piece of certification from the state, but if you can make it accessible tomorrow, because if I get it tomorrow, we'll start.
Yep. So that will be a start date as early as tomorrow.
I will second that.
All right, Eric,
Yes.
Oh, discussion. So this is, she's going to actually be working with, helping kids I'm seeing, learning to read.
Yeah, it's whatever we
younger-
have this designated for with Title I, it's always been around reading, so yes. Yep.
Okay, Eric?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes.
Katrina?
Yes.
Jess and Debbie, yes. Okay,
Last but not least, we have a person that was working for us as a sub. You've already approved her as a sub, Alexis Gauthier. She has agreed to come on as a full-time paraprofessional, getting us, like I said, within one of our goal, if you approve tonight. This will be full-time, and yeah, you can see the rest of it there if you have any questions.
Okay, so I move we accept the nomination of Alexis Gauthier for full-time paraprofessional at a rate of $15.42 per hour to be paid for from the 1,200 line of the local operating budget. Benefits per the CBA with a start date effective tomorrow.
okay, we have a second?
I will second.
Discussion? Okay, Eric?
Yes.
Liz?
Yes.
Katrina?
Yes.
Jess and Debbie, yes. Okay,
Thank you so much for taking care of those others.
all right, so public comments? None? Okay, so we are going to need one more non-public. And it's under C, and what else? What is yours under?
That was under, mine's under
Okay,
C
C.
also.
Okay, so we have a motion to go into
I move that we go into non-public under RSA 91A32C at 10:17.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Okay, Katrina?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Jess? Liz?
Yes.
And Debbie, yes. Okay.
We're gonna
Just need to shut
off
off.
those.
And
He's-